that we're bringing to the light. From maps to mods to the rigs we drive, we're talking to the folks who keep this farm life alive. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. He's got questions rolling like a big John Deere, digging deep with modders so their voices we can hear. From giants of the code to the artists painting skies, he's shining up their stories like a brand new combine. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. From tractors to textures, from silos to sounds, there's a whole crew of heroes making this world go round. So tune in and find out who's behind the screen. Farm Sim Talk's the place to see what farming really means. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Big Day Dave, and this is Farm Sim Talk, a show where we get to talk to fellow creators here in the Farm Sim community, where we get to find out just a little bit more about them. And I'm joined here tonight by Argsy Gaming. Argsy, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing well, mate. How about yourself?
I am fantastic. Thank you for asking.
Excellent.
So
No
I want to
dramas.
give a shout out to all the people who are out there right now that I see in the chat. I saw Nacho Cast, Jody, Ken, we got Rocket Scientist, we got Rusty Money Gaming, Ronnie Johansson, we got let's see, I see Flash Gamings and Joseph, Ken Adlam, we got Dean Powell and Hyper138. Thank you all so much for coming out here and hanging out with us here tonight. So let's go ahead and get this party started. Argsy, do you want to tell us where we can find you?
Oh, of course you can. So the main thing I do is YouTube. So Argsy Gaming or at Argsy Gaming at YouTube. That is pretty much where most of my stuff is done. Facebook also at everything is at Argsy Gaming. I think it's Facebook, Instagram, X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I'm still confused. I don't know what people call it nowadays, but it's all at, basically I've managed to get at Argsy Gaming for pretty much everything, for every handle, which is kind of handy, kind of easy to tell people where I'm at. But YouTube's the main place I am creating content at.
Excellent, excellent. Do you want to give any shout outs before we get going?
No, just nice to see some of the, I know Hyper's one of the community there. Nice to see you there in chat. Anyone else who has tuned in, nice to have you all here. Oh no, it's just literally the whole community, the whole Farm Sim community. We were talking about it before we started. It's just the most chill, awesome place. Everyone who's here taking the time to tune into whether it's into BDD or for myself. Awesome. Yeah, we'll make it. That'll do.
Excellent, excellent. So how about you, for those of us who are not familiar with you and your content, how about you give us a kind of a brief
Mhm.
introduction of who you are?
Yep. So I'm based in New Zealand. So it is just gone 1:30 Saturday afternoon here in New Zealand. So we're in the future. I can't tell you the lottery numbers. I'm sorry. It doesn't quite work that way. But
Dang.
yeah, so I've been creating content on YouTube for, well, since 2020. So we've just gone past 5 years, which was interesting because YouTube had its 20-year birthday the other day, earlier this year. And I didn't think I'd been on it creating content for a quarter of the whole lifetime of YouTube. It just kind of blew my mind actually to realize how long I'd been doing it for. Um, but yeah, we sort of started doing it in COVID, as a lot of people did. We were sort of stuck at home, working, not much to do, couldn't get out and go anywhere, so just started making content. I was watching quite a bit of Farm Sim content at the time. I got FS19 through. I first got it through PlayStation Network. Actually, it was one of the monthly games for that. So started playing on PlayStation, and then it came out on Epic Games as well later in the year, or later that same year. And so I started playing it on PC that way. And it's kind of, once I had it on PC, it was a bit easier to start doing the whole content thing. And yeah, I would say the rest is history, but there's a lot of things to talk about in amongst that.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into our first segment here. It's called Digging Up Dirt. This is the segment where we get to find out who you are just outside of the farm sim community. So, first question I have for you is do you have a job outside of content creation, modding, or is this your primary job?
No, no. So this is purely a hobby. I'm always really upfront with people. This is something I do in my spare time, and it does take up a lot of spare time. But it's purely a hobby. I'm an architect full time, so fully qualified. My wife's in the background if you can hear her, because obviously family are around. Yelling out and giving a shout out to my business name. So Studio BBA is my architecture practice that I own. I have 3 staff here in New Zealand, and we basically design houses, mostly houses. Do some work in schools, and a few commercial buildings, hospitality, but mostly houses and residential things.
Oh, that's really cool. What's like the
Hmm.
biggest build that you've done up to date?
The biggest build. I've done it. Previous employer, I worked on some supermarkets. So they were probably, from a value and size, were probably a couple of the bigger projects I did, and complexity too. One was a new build right from scratch, sort of greenfield site, and the other was a refit of an existing store. So having to keep the store current and working and operating while we're trying to modernize it all at the same time. So a little bit of juggling act to work in sections, move bits around and keep it going. But those would probably be a couple of the bigger ones historically. Working on a school hostel at the moment, a 60-bed hostel for a boarding school. That's probably the biggest job I'm doing at the moment. So,
Oh wow,
yeah.
that's so
Hmm.
mainly that job would entail you kind of coming up with like the designs and how everything's going to be laid out and kind of how it's going to kind of lay out and function, correct?
Yeah, a little bit. It's a misconception. People, when you say you're an architect and people think about an architect, they think about someone who spends all their time designing, but design's probably 20% of the job, 20% of a project. The rest is the documentation. So I'll use modding as an example. You can have an idea for a mod, and it might be something like my bulk buy bunkers I've done, and so the idea is there, and that doesn't take a huge amount of time to come up with. But then the actual back end work of making the model, scripting the model, in-gaming the model, and everything like that is kind of the equivalent for us taking a concept for a house and a design for a house, and then making it buildable. Um, Doing the drawings that a builder you can give to a builder, and they can put it together with kind of like Lego, I suppose. You look at a Lego model and you can see the end result, but there's a whole lot of stages and a whole lot of pieces you've got to do in a certain order to get to that end model. So that takes up a huge chunk of our time.
Okay, okay, yeah. Because
Hmm.
I mean, me personally, I'm not familiar with architecture or anything like that. I've never studied it or anything, so I
Hmm.
always had the kind of Hollywood vision of what an architect would be, like almost
Yeah.
like a How I Met Your Mother, Ted Mosby kind of thing, if you know the reference. But no, so that's interesting because it's obviously, like you said, it's more than just the design work, but there's like the
Hmm.
documentation, there's all sorts of stuff that's kind of entailed within that as well, that I
Yeah.
don't know why. I guess I just would never have thought of that before.
Yeah. Well,
So,
a good example actually that'd be quite relevant to probably a lot of people. Anyone who's watched Clarkson Farms is
hmm,
all the effort that Jeremy's had to go through to try and get his farm shop or his restaurant on the farm shop, all of that done, and how much paperwork there was to try and get planning permission. So, architecture is a similar that we come across those same issues where you might have a great idea and a great design, but there's so much regulation and rules that get in the way of actually being able to do it.
I gotcha. So, is it your
Hmm.
job to kind of make sure that you're keeping up with all the current practices and standards and laws that are
Yeah.
in your local area?
Yep. Yeah, 100%. So, that's an ongoing thing as well. So, while you're designing things, you're drawing things, you're helping things get built, and then there's sort of staying current with law changes and regulations and planning rules and how many toilets do you have to have for a certain size building and all of those kind of things.
Has there ever been a time where like either some legislations come down or some kind of funky law that's come down and has completely thrown an absolute wrench in the business?
There's definitely been some projects which have not gone past the drawing board because of restrictions that have been put in place. Um, there's projects that take longer to get the planning permission than it takes to actually get them built, which is to me is kind of ridiculous because there's so much money spent on consultants and planners and engineers and architects and everything like that just to get the piece of paper signed, and then you can build it quicker. It's 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 a problem.
Wow. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that sounds wild. So,
yeah, yeah.
what kind of hobbies do you have? Do you like to do any hiking, fishing, sports? What kind of things do you
Um,
like to do?
yeah, yeah. So the other thing that takes up a lot of my spare time is football with my boys. So soccer for those in the US. They both play football. I've been involved coaching them for, oh goodness, my oldest boy is 14 and I started when he was about 6, so probably 8 years now. So that's 2 or 3 nights a week. They play both football, so field soccer, and futsal, which is five-a-side indoor football. And yeah, I involved with coaching that. So this morning was out at 8 o'clock out the door and off to a football game for the morning. So that's one of the big things I spend a bit of time on. In between that, try and squeeze in some Lego, building some Lego. Um, yeah, enjoy a good whiskey as well.
Oh, there you go. So, Lego, what kind of Legos are you into?
All sorts, and I've tried to really narrow it down. So started out with a lot of Star Wars stuff. So I was fortunate enough for my 40th birthday. Mrs. Argsy got the big Millennium Falcon for me. So that's a very cool set. Yeah, really lucky with that. But I've lately got into the agriculture stuff. So I need to improve my backdrop instead of having a blank wall behind me. I should have my Lego. But what have I got sitting up there? John Deere tractor, a little class tractor. There's another tractor. And we've built quite a few on stream as well. So I live stream sometimes and we'll build Lego. So we've built the John Deere skidder. What else we built? Case tractor. So there's a couple of. I'm a little bit naughty. There's a company that makes Lego style models, but they're themed. So there's a class actually have a license, and we've made a class Zerion. We're currently halfway through a class telehandler. I've got a class Dominator combine to make. So yeah, all sorts, and space. I love the space stuff. So like at the Saturn V rocket, space shuttle, International Space Station, those kind of things.
Wow, that's really cool. So,
Yeah.
it sounds like you got like a lot to do with the kind of farming world in regards to your Legos there. Do you have some kind of
Mm.
like connection to farming outside of Farm Sim or?
Yeah, so I grew up on a farm, and where we live now is part of the farm. So we bought a couple of acres off my family 8 9 years ago and built a house for ourselves. So we still live next to the farm. But yeah, I grew up on the family farm of about 300 acres,
Wow.
and did a lot of potatoes, grew potatoes, and that was the main thing when I was a young boy. Potatoes and beef. So when I say beef, bulls, not cows, not dairy. And a lot of those got exported off and turned into McDonald's hamburgers, is the story we always get told, as export meat. But yeah, the potato side of things, that was always interesting. Started off when I first was a youngster. It was all manual labour. Basically, you had a lifter would go through, lift the potatoes out of the ground, and then you'd walk behind that with a 20 kilo, which is what, about 44-pound bag, jute bag, slung between your legs, and you just pick potatoes up by hand, throw them between your legs, get to the end of that bag, unhook it, grab another one, go again. And
Wow.
I think my record was 70 or 80 bags in a day when I was 14 or something like that. So, but some of the guys who did it properly, because it's a really seasonal labour, if on a big day, could do 200
Wow.
hand-picked bags in a day. So, what's that? A ton of potatoes. Mm.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot.
Mm.
Holy smokes. So
Yeah.
we got Legos, we got football. Do you have a favorite team that you like?
I've always been a Manchester United supporter, so I've stuck with them through thick and thin. So some people sort of go for the glory and follow a team that's doing well and popular, but yeah, Man U's been my team for a long time.
That actually kind of caught me off guard. So Manchester United, that's England, correct?
England, yeah, yep,
So
yep.
what kind of drove the love for Manchester United?
I was just, I guess, professional football in New Zealand there was nothing. So this was back sort of 2000s, 20 years ago, 25 years ago. There was nothing, and the only thing you heard of was, and even more so, was Premier League English football. So you always supported a team like that. I was actually a rugby player. I played rugby right through my youth. So the boys got the football. They chose that path, which is cool. Support them with that. But yeah, we just ended up supporting Man United and going through. So professional football's become more of a thing in New Zealand now, and we've got a team that's 2 hours south of us in Wellington, based in Wellington, as a professional team, and we'll support them too. But if you ask me first up what my favourite team is, it'll always be Man U.
Wow, and rugby, I mean that's not a joke there. That's a tough sport.
Yeah. No, it's good fun. I love the rugby. Obviously, something New Zealand for a country of 5 million people is pretty good at.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Mm.
I tried for a little while to follow it because it's basically like American style football, but for people like how do I want to say this without hmm. It's like American style football for crazy people. Because you're basically running around
Yeah,
with no pads, no nothing, and you're just
nothing.
going at it.
Yeah, and it's non-stop too. I mean, there'll be breaks in play, but you don't have a scrimmage every play and a pause. So yeah, it's pretty full on. 80 minutes. Can get some pretty solid contact and things like that. But I'm the same. I try and watch American football and follow that, and I've got the majority of it probably from playing Madden back in my younger days. But there's just those nuances of the sport which make it really difficult sometimes to follow. But no, it's pretty rough, and they're trying to obviously break into the American market a little bit more. I think which year is it? 2031 might be the Rugby World Cup's being hosted in America, in the US.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. I
Mm.
I
Mm.
tell you what,
So
go ahead.
go. Oh, no, I was just going to say. So the All Blacks have been playing frequently in Chicago. Actually, they've been playing Ireland and Chicago quite a bit, and I think they took a game there last year in LA, possibly. So there's a
Wow.
bit more of a push into it.
If there was one sport out there that I could definitely get into, it would be rugby. I mean, just there are
Mm.
times where it could be absolutely brutal. I've seen like the highlights on some games, and you get
Mm.
like that open, field contact and whatnot, and just wow, it's
Mm.
brutal, absolutely brutal.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess for comparison, I played as a fullback, which was basically the last line of defense, kind of like the goalkeeper, or I don't know how the comparison, almost like a wide receiver or something in football. So not in that sort of um, line up of at scrimmage. So more of a running person. So tried to avoid as much of the contact as possible.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Mm.
Well, yeah, because I mean, me personally, I'm a big into ice hockey. I grew up in
Okay.
Michigan there, so being up in the north, it's one of those where you know I'm used to like the physical contact sports and people running, well, in that case, skating around and blasting into each other at 20 miles an hour. So yeah,
Mm.
like I said, if there's any other sport out there that I could see myself getting into, it'd be rugby, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
But
Nice.
what else are you into? So we mentioned Legos. You're into soccer, Manchester United. You played a little bit of rugby. Uh, what else? Do you into hiking, fishing, anything like that?
Um, Not a lot. I used to do a lot of cycling. We lived in Wellington for a while. I studied down there. Wellington's got some really good mountain bike tracks, which are sort of 10-minute ride from your front door. So used to do a lot of that. Used to do a bit of road cycling around here, but as I've got older and lazier, I've kind of not done as much exercise as I probably should.
So, do you like to read books or anything like that?
Um, I have not a huge amount. Sort of a lot of my spare time I end up on a PC, and I'm either creating content, making a mod, playing other games. So I've got friends I've played with for 15 years, and we still have a regular gaming night on a Tuesday, and just play different games. So that's probably where a lot of my spare time ends up. But I read occasionally, read the odd book, a lot of biographies. So um, like the Dave Grohl book, read his book a wee while ago. Just trying to think what some of the other ones are. Can't think of any at the moment. There's a New Zealand reporter who spent about 3 years working over in um, Europe as the European correspondent for New Zealand media, and she spent a lot of time covering the Ukraine conflict and the death of the Queen Elizabeth and those kind of things. And she's got a book out that I really want to get my hands on, so that might be the next one.
I gotcha. What about movies and television? Do you catch any movies and or watch TV or anything like that?
Um, it's probably the latest thing I've been watching on TV is latest Clarkson Farms.
Okay.
So whatever, season 4, I think it is. We sit down and watch the odd movie with the boys. I'm trying to get them through some of the sort of ones I grew up with. So my boys are 12 and 14, almost 12 and 14. So just trying to go through some of those sort of old movies. So we've watched Back to the Future a wee while ago, and we were just going through some that we might want to sit down and watch with them. Things like Talladega Nights, or we are talking about Romeo and Juliet, the one with Claire Danes and Leonardo DiCaprio, and just some of those kind of classics. Labyrinth, they loved Labyrinth.
Oh,
The
with
classic David
David
Bowie,
Bowie.
David
Yeah.
Bowie, and Jennifer Connelly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was a great movie. I think that wasn't that one of the last Jim Henson movies? Like it was pretty up
No, I
there
don't know. Yeah,
because
yeah.
it was right around. I think it was right around the time when he passed away, and yeah. Oh, anybody out there who hasn't seen Labyrinth, check it out. It's a classic. Like I remember
It's
watching that
cool.
when I
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
kid, and it was so much
yeah,
fun. But
yeah.
so what about music? What kind of music are you into?
If you looked at our playlist, I listen, and often people quiz me because we have Spotify in the office at work, and we have a shared playlist, so it's got an eclectic mix. So I end up with all sorts. I've got a staff member who's originally from Russia, and so we get some Russian rock music will pop up occasionally, and we listen to all sorts. So I love my rock. I love Foo Fighters, Linkin Park. Um, what else can I throw in there? Pearl Jam. Went to the Pearl Jam and Foo Fighters concerts last year. Saw both of them live, which was cool. First sort of big stadium concerts I've been to for a long time. They were both really really good, and yeah, so that kind of thing. But then I'll go really old school, but a little skidded. Freebird's probably one of my favourite songs out there. But then I don't mind listening to some sort of modern pop, Kendrick Lamar, Macklemore. Love me some Macklemore. So yeah, it's a very eclectic mix, and I can often get. What I was going to say is, with Discord, it'll show what you're listening to on Spotify, and I often get messages saying you're listening to what, just because it's such an eclectic mix.
I gotcha. Well, it sounds like you got some good taste over there. I definitely like me some like you said Pearl Jam and Def Lep, and yeah, you threw out a couple of real good ones out there. I approve. I approve.
Thank you, thank you.
So, based on the books, movies, and television, what's the kind of oddest or weirdest book, movie, or television show that you've seen to date?
Oh goodness, I can't. I don't know off the top of my head.
So to buy you a little bit of time to
Right,
answer this
thank you.
one.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
one that I always give every single time, and I heard you say Lego Star Wars and all that stuff. So you might get
Mm,
an appreciation for this one. Have you ever heard of the Star Wars Holiday Special?
no.
So back in it was either the 70s or 80s. I can't remember exactly when. It was a long time ago. I think it was
Yeah.
after the number 4 came out, and it was an absolute smash. Took the world by storm, kind of thing. Um, they came out with a made-for-TV movie called the Star Wars Holiday Special, and it's with all the original cast. It's got like Mark Hamill and George Lucas directed it. The oh, goodness, what's her name? Played Princess Leia. Why can't I ever
Carrie
remember?
Fisher.
Thank you, Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher.
Um, had Harrison Ford. Everybody who was in the original movie was in this special, and it
Mm.
was absolute garbage. It was terrible.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the about the best part, not even the best part, but like the best way I can describe on just how bad it is that there's a scene where it focuses on Chewbacca and his family, and Chewbacca and Harrison Ford, Han Solo, are off in space doing their thing, and it shows basically Chewbacca on a like a phone messaging thing where it shows his video, kind of like
Mm.
what we're doing now, and
Yeah.
it shows him and his wife on I can't remember the planet's name. Anyways, they're back at the wife and the family are back at their home on their home planet, and basically it's just them talking in Wookiee like for 10 to 15 minutes. No
Right.
context, no text underneath to let you know what they're saying.
Yeah.
It's just just them just prattling on for
You
like
did that well, actually.
thank you, thank you. But it was just one of those like, why would you think that this
Yeah.
was going to be anything besides just an absolute just dog pile of
Mm.
nonsense? Like
Mm. Mm.
but I mean, even had
Mm.
people like B. Arthur, from the Golden Girls.
Mhm.
Like it had other people who were like bought into the franchise, kind of thing. It was absolutely nuts, but it was just absolutely terrible. So I always throw that one out there, especially for somebody who says,
Yeah. Yeah.
Star Wars of any kind have any kind of connection to it. I always throw that out there just because, hey, why
Yeah.
not? Um,
I'm
so,
I'm
anyways,
gonna have to go find it now.
oh, yes. It's one of those where when I was growing up, I would get my buddies around and I would always sit there and be like, "Hey, have you ever heard of this? It's Star Wars Holiday Special," knowing that they were big Star Wars fans. It's like, "Oh man, we got to watch it. It's so amazing." I would sit there and hype it up and just sit there and
Mm.
say how amazing it was. It's amazing. And then we get, it's like, "Okay, I'm going to come over. We're going to watch it." And it's like, "Okay, let's do this." And I'd get them to come over and they'd just be sitting there and just stone-faced the entire time. It's like, "I thought you said this was good." I was like, "Are you not having fun?" So I'd sit there and just
Uh,
troll them before like trolling was a big
yeah. Yeah.
thing, and they're like, "I cannot believe I wasted an hour of my life on that movie."
Yeah. Funny. I always
Uh,
thought that. So, like the one movie I can thought, I'd probably, if I went back and watched it now, I'd probably appreciate it more. Would be Lost in Translation with Bill Murray.
oh
I
yeah,
sat
yeah.
through that movie and it was the one set in Japan and it just made no sense to me. It might have been the age I was, might have been what was happening at the time. It did not appeal to me. It was just a weird one. That's all. On the flip side, Napoleon Dynamite was also one like that. I watched it the very first time and thought it was the strangest movie ever, and then had a bit of a chuckle about things and went back and watched it and realized how brilliant it was across the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. It's funny in how we can kind of get into whether it's a movie, a book, or something along those lines. And it is very, very common, at least with me, it was with movies. That was very common. Where you go and sit down and watch a movie, and for some reason, it just doesn't resonate at that point in time.
Mm.
And you're like, you know what, meh, whatever, and just shelf it. You could shelf it for years, and then some reason,
Yeah.
some why you just come back to it, right? And you're like,
Mm.
why did I think this was trash, or why did I have such a negative opinion about this? This is awesome.
Mm.
Like,
Mm.
have you ever had that happen to you?
100%, 100%. And can just be the state of mind you're in. You want a comedy and you end up with some drama, and you're like, oh, that's terrible because I thought it was going to be a comedy. But you go back and watch it later and go, actually, for what it was meant to be, it was actually a good movie. Yeah.
So you have the YouTube channel, you do a bit of modding.
Mm. Mhm.
What would you do if for some reason you weren't able to do those things anymore? Let's say the computer you're working on, it blew up, or something, you just didn't have the means to be able to either replace it or whatever the case may be. What would you go and do if that was the case?
Um, I don't know. Don't know. Like, obviously, I've got a job, so I'm not doing this for financial reasons. I've always been like I said at the start, PlayStation was the first thing I ever started gaming on. So I've got connection, like different sort of pigeonhole. You've got groups of people you have. So I don't know. I don't know. Probably just branch into something different, find something different to do. I've thought about do I get back into doing some more farming, get more involved with the farm, those kind of things as my family get older. Um, that sort of stuff. I think I said in the stuff I sent you through, my wife's family have a dairy farm as well, so we're kind of connected, and she's actually a director on the of the farm, so it's kind of two families. She's a director in one from one side, director from the other side, so they kind of make co-decisions in the direction of the farm, which is kind of cool. So
Oh
yeah,
wow,
I
that's
don't know. I'm
cool.
I'm sure I'd find something. Mm, yeah.
So so as you kind of gotten older in life, you said you grew up on the farm and you did a bunch of the farm, farm labor and all that. It sounds like you kind of
Mhm.
grew up and kind of grew away from the farm life. Um, is it one of those that you were just kind of called to do something different, or you just really didn't want to do something like
Um,
that for the rest of your life?
I didn't. I'm not a morning person, so I don't like the early mornings. I don't know whether that was enough to put me off, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it was. Whether it was just some of the things I didn't like getting out and doing, or my parents always encouraged me to get into other things. Go and do something, study, even if I got a degree, as I did with being an architect. Even if I got a degree in architecture and then went back to work on the farm, I'm sure that would have been something they would have wanted us to do. So they've always encouraged us to do our own thing, and that the farm um, doesn't have to stay in the family. So yeah, we've actually, as mum and dad are getting older, and we've had those conversations about what's going to happen with the farm when they're not here. Are we going to keep it? Do we have it run it some way that the family keep it, or what we do? So yeah, I don't know. I just moved to Wellington, had a different lifestyle. There's things I wish I'd done a little bit more. Having an OE or those kind of things. I always thought about traveling for a year and going and driving combines across the states or across Australia or something like that, getting an agriculture job like that when I was younger. And I think if I reflect on it, it's so easy now for people to do that in terms of finding the information. You could Google now and probably find people who want someone to go and drive a combine somewhere. And I get it a lot now. I don't know whether it's because of what I look at and what I view, but you get things pop up, and it'll be we're wanting skilled contractors or still skilled people to come and drive machinery and equipment for the harvest season. Whereas back in the day, it might have been an advert in a farming magazine, or how you found out about it when the internet wasn't a thing. So that kind of probably made it a bit hard to do. The other thing I would have loved to have got into and didn't was aviation. Was actually getting into flying, and that's something I you know have a dream at some stage to do is go through my private pilot's license.
I gotcha.
So,
So, I mean, in regards to the piloting, is that something that like we're just looking to just be able to fly like a little like prop plane or something like that, or is it something that you were considering wanting to like take it further, and maybe doing cargo or doing like passenger uh
it was
aviation?
yeah, it was I was actually the Air Force. I looked at going into our Air Force
Oh,
when I was leaving school, but yeah, chose the architecture route. And I think again, to kind of might have talked myself out of it a little bit with um, migraines and things that I thought, I won't get in because I get migraines, or I'm not a very confident swimmer at all. So I thought, you probably need to be a good swimmer, and I didn't want to have to learn to swim. So instead of maybe instead of pushing myself to do it, I went down chose a different route.
I gotcha, I gotcha.
Mm.
So, you mentioned that you grew up on the farm. You've got that connection to the kind of farm life, uh, the farm lifestyle. I've always
Mm.
kind of held the position that, um, in regards to Farming Simulator, oftentimes that the kind of love for Farming Simulator comes from that kind of connection, wherever that connection kind of starts from, whether you grew up in a rural area, you grew up on a farm, you've done the labor for a farm, whatever that is, there's that kind of deep connection to the kind of farm life that builds into the love for Farming Simulator. Would you say that that's kind of held true for you, and as to why you are, making the content that you do, making the mods, all that kind of stuff? Do you think that your connection to the farm life is what kind of spurred you into this kind of space?
Um, yeah, I think so. I think so. It was something I'd always, I knew about Farming Simulator before I got it, but never had the opportunity. Was just focused on other games. But I think so, because sometimes I can find myself, I want to play ways that we did things when I was younger. Might be the way that you have animals, and might be the way that you plant a field or harvest a field, or the type of crops that we grow, or things like that. I do find sometimes I can go down that rabbit hole. Other times I can go down the rabbit hole of, I wanted to go and drive combines across the US with 5 other ones, so let's set it up on courseplay and drive combines. Those kind of things. So it's kind of, yeah, I think there is that connection because it gives you those experiences virtually that you might not have otherwise ever had.
So, based on your experiences growing up on the farm and doing the work that you did, how close to accurate would you say you can play Farming Simulator that would be kind of consistent amongst real life farming? Like, is it somewhat accurate? Is it nowhere anywhere close? Like, what
Mhm.
would be like your take on that?
I think if you wanted to, you could be very close, particularly with the arable side of things. I think the animal side of things is very, to me, very European way of doing things. New Zealand's agriculture and animals here, cows. We have dairy farms, and if it's a dairy farm, you've got 300 acres of land, and the cows spend all day every day outside. We don't have the sort of barn raised, barn fed systems that you might see in Europe, or even some of the big ranches and that in the States. So I think in some ways, yes, you can, but in other ways, because the way the game's designed doesn't quite make it possible to do things. So it's just finding ways to work around. And I'm trying to do some of that with the map I'm working on as well, which um, trying to find ways that I can do things the way we would have done it.
I gotcha. So, you kind of mentioned earlier that the whole content creation is kind of a side gig. Has it ever been a thing where it was kind of like, oh, let me just see how this goes? Or is it something where you've kind of like, hey, I want to chase something, and kind of go from there? Or is it just strictly
Mm.
a side thing? You really don't have like, I don't want to say you don't have a vested interest in it, but it's not something that you're going to be like, this is something that's going to take hold and take over my day to day. Like,
Mm.
you understand what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah. Oh, look, I think there's always that deep seated wish that could you make it successful and bring in enough. I guess at the end of the day, it's about bringing enough revenue to live and live in the ways means you want to. And ideally, if it could ever grow to that, then maybe. But at the same time, you're at the whim of a game, really. Like in terms of your community, if something didn't work with FarmSim, or FarmSim got sold, or they just decided to stop carrying on the game, then that's basically, unless you've managed to build a community where you might be able to step sideways into a different game or a different genre or something like that, you've really pigeonholed yourself into something. So, and is it something you want to do? It's mid 40s. Is it something you want to be doing when you're 55? I don't know, but at least I don't have to ask that question or answer that question, because we've got the business and own things running in the background.
so do you like to travel?
Love traveling. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the most exotic place that you've been to?
Ooh, exotic. Um, we've just spent a week for a friend's birthday on Hamilton Island, which is a subtropical island off the coast of Australia,
Oh
near the
wow.
Great Barrier Reef. So that was pretty cool. It's an island that's probably, gosh, how long would it be? It's long enough to have an airport runway to land a Boeing on, a smaller one. But yeah, it's only got a population of five. I think it can have 5,000 people when it's fully, all the beds are full. So that
Wow.
was kind of cool. Been to Fiji, another one of sort of South Pacific Islands. It's a nice sort of spot, I guess, in terms of exotic and remote.
That's wow, that sounds amazing.
Mm, mm.
Um, so let me ask you this: if money was no object, what would be like your dream vacation? Where would you go as part of your vacation?
Um, we've talked later. I know my wife would love to go to the Maldives, so definitely have to throw that in there. I don't know. There's always places we'll talk about that'll pop up and go. Like I was saying the other day, Japan would be a cool place to take to go as a family because boys love the cuisine. We were actually out at a Japanese restaurant and we were talking about how cool it would be to go and sort of experience that every day for a period. Um, where else would there be? Even some place like South Africa, I wouldn't be fascinating to go there and sort of see what that's like, and particularly if there was some rugby on to pair it with and go and watch the All Blacks play over there or something against South Africa, one of our biggest rivals. Um, I've obviously had some awesome opportunities lately traveling with through FarmSim to FarmCon a couple of times and getting into Chicago up to Racine in Washington last year for the pre-release of FS25. So I've got to see some cool places just through that as well, which has been cool.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm,
So you explained that you said you had two kids and the wife.
mm.
Um, how do you create that kind of balance between the home life, work life, and farm sim life?
Um, it's a struggle. It's I would probably tip it too far one way rather than the other, but it's just trying to find that balance. It's yeah, it's a bit of a moving target. Just not getting trapped in and I'm guilty of it, sitting down at your computer and just kind of losing track of time. So yeah, it's always because there's always something. Some nights we might not get home from football till 7 o'clock at night, and then dinner and those kind of things. So yeah, I think early on when I was making content, it was very much I've kind of really transitioned into how I make content, and now for me, because it is just a hobby, it's more about the people that I can interact with. Like this, doing live streams, going to FarmCon, meeting people. I enjoy that. Even just chatting to people on Discord or whatever, I enjoy that as much as I do making the content now. So it's kind of interesting how it's shifted, how it's changed.
And what would you say inspires or motivates you in just life in general?
Um, I just I just want to just be successful at what you do. So whether it's just and giving it what you can.
Gotcha. So it's
So
just that kind of
hmm.
drive for success.
Yeah. I've always been, and one of the things I'd say is with workers. I worked in a business where the directors of the company were very work focused, and they'd spend a lot of time in the office. And I've always been the opposite. I want to be able to be there for doing the things with the kids, like the football. So if that means I spend less time in the office during the week, then that's what it is. I mean, we've only got probably 6 more years that they're going to be at home before they might be off to university or doing their own thing. So that time's going to fly by. It's already flown by now.
So walk us through like a typical day that you have where it would culminate in you creating some content for YouTube. Kind of walk us through.
Mhm. Yep. So I mean, that's work in the morning. Sometimes finish at 3 to pick the kids up from school. There might be football training afterwards, um, dinner, and then sort of after dinner 7 8 o'clock sit down at the computer and I normally, because of where I'm sitting, and it's actually quite good at the moment, everyone's being quite quiet, but the living room's literally behind this wall and there's no door or anything. So until everyone's gone to bed, and then it was easy when the kids were a bit younger because I'd go to bed earlier, but now they're up a little bit later. So it might be 9 o'clock before I can actually record something where I want to record on the mic, use my microphone. So otherwise, it's time before that might be editing something I've already pre-recorded or setting something up for a series or working on a model, something like that.
So at those times where you're able to kind of get to the computer prior to everybody being able to go to bed or whatever, do you kind of
Mm,
work in phases to where it's like, okay, well, I can at least get some work done on the map or on a model, whatever the
yeah,
case may be, and
yeah,
then once it gets to a point where everybody's kind of settling in for the evening, then you can kind of shift focus to the
yeah.
content.
That's kind of the way. That's kind of the way I've been doing it. I get distracted though. I'm really easy to go down a rabbit hole of watching YouTube or catching up on other people doing, reading Discord, even just getting back to the space thing with Lego. I love following along with SpaceX and what they're doing with Starship and all of that sort of thing. So might be even just seeing something, what's going on with the development there, or just watching things like that.
It's amazing what
So,
what SpaceX is doing, like catching rockets
oh
and
yeah,
doing all that. And I mean,
yeah, mind blowing.
never in my wildest dreams when I was growing up did I ever think like, you know what, it's going to be amazing to just go watch a rocket go launch into space. I always thought that
Yeah,
forever and a day we're just going to, you know, chuck them things back into the ocean. We're going to pick them up from the ocean and kind of go from there, kind of thing. Or
mm,
maybe be able to land them with the actual shuttles and stuff. But
mm,
never in my wildest dream did I think that we'd be able to, you know, throw a rocket up into space and then come back down and actually like boop catch it. Like
yeah, yeah.
it's insane. That's incredible.
I,
I mean,
I tell you what, if you told me tomorrow you'd buy me a ticket to go on a SpaceX shuttle to or a rocket to the space station, I'd be there in a heartbeat. Love to do
oh, see, that's where you and I diverge.
that.
It's one of those.
Mars maybe not, but I'd love to go. I'd love to go into space.
It's one of those where I think it'd be cool, but at the same time, it's one of those where I don't know. It's I think space and underwater exploration, like in the oceans and stuff like that, are the two things that's like, nope.
Oh,
Like the thing
you
that's
wouldn't catch
separate.
me under the water.
I don't know. It's just, the one thing that's separating me from you know life and certain doom is just a thin piece of material. Like it's like I mean it's kind of the same thing with like flying and stuff, but I'm comfortable
Mm,
flying. Just I've got my limits in both directions.
yeah, yeah. Fair enough.
So tell me, what's one thing that people are generally surprised to find out about you?
Oh, um, it's funny because I was watching. I said to you before, I watched some of your videos to do some research, and I knew you were going to ask this question, but I hadn't even thought about an answer. Um, oh goodness, I don't know. No, I'll think about it. If there's something comes to mind, I'll let you know.
So what's one of your biggest fears that keeps you up at night?
I don't like the water. I don't like swimming. I'm not a swimmer, so
Just anything
like
in particular about it, or
no. Well, I seem to have a memory when I was a young fella, about 5, at a school swimming sports, and I fell in the deep end of a pool. But my parents tell me it never happened, so I don't know whether it happened or not, or whether it was something I dreamt and it just stuck with me. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the water, so yeah. I'll go on a kayak. I'll go on a boat. I'll get out on the water, but I'm not a swimmer, and I know my limits. So yeah, so you wouldn't catch me in a submarine anyway.
see, I don't blame you, and especially after hearing about
Mm.
that. Oh goodness, what was that
Yeah, the
submarine by the?
Titanic one. Yeah,
Yeah, the one that was driven by the joystick controller or whatever.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, but it's one of those like you get into this craft, and all of a sudden you see the pilot get in, and he's like, "All right, everybody, buckle up," and he busts
Yeah,
out a gaming controller from like 30
yeah,
years ago. Like, open the hatch, let me out.
yeah, yeah.
Do you own any pets?
We've got a dog.
Oh yeah, what kind?
Who is she's a Schnauzer Poodle cross, a Schnoodle. She's just turned 7 months old. So
Oh, so still a baby
she's
baby.
relatively new. Yeah, yeah. We had a Schnauzer for he was 17 when he passed away a couple of years ago. So he was our first baby was a Schnauzer Hamilton. Now we have Stella. Stella who's a black Schnoodle, and she'll make an appearance on streams, come and say hello to people. So everyone's been watching her grow up, go from a short little puppy to hopefully about full size now.
Gotcha, gotcha. So I'm a big dog guy. As a matter of, oh no, No, I don't have any of them in the office here with me, but very oftentimes you can see the bed right over my
Yeah.
left shoulder, well, my right
Yeah.
shoulder actually. Um, so yeah, they're oftentimes just laying in the background, just laying there like slugs. But yeah, the dogs are amazing. They're absolutely wonderful. So, what's some of your favorite creators outside of the farm sim community?
Outside of the farm sim community, was getting back to some of that space stuff. I watch this guy Marcus House, who does a video once a week, which sort of summarizes everything. He's an Australian, and yeah, just wraps up everything that they've done at SpaceX, and even just launches, follows along with Rocket Lab, which is a New Zealand started company, which is now partly US owned, partly US based. But we can see their launches from our backyard on a clear night. You can just see this little red dot, which looks like a firework tracing up, which is kind of cool. But him, I've got into watching Cletus McFarland or Garrett Mitchell, depending on how you want to call him. Who else is there? Yeah, I watch a bit of Twitch gamers as well. Sort of, I've played PUBG a little bit. So there's a guy Rolly Polypotamus, so I watch on Twitch quite a lot. He plays, and that is just a real cool personality. Has a piano. He's plays piano songs halfway between games, and yeah, does freestyle rapping, and just a cool personality. There was another guy, and I can't remember his name. I just stumbled across the other day, and Ari at Home is his name on Twitch, but he's he's a music creator, and I'm not a musical person. Like, I love listening to music and I appreciate it, but I can't play an instrument to save myself. But he walks around New York City with a keyboard basically on in front of him. He's got speakers, he has a microphone, um, and live streams. He has someone filming him, and he will he will create, and people just come up and they know who he is, and obviously follow him along, and they'll come up and find him, and they'll just do freestyle raps in the street. And you'll go to like in a park in New York City somewhere, they do like a Friday night meetup where they'll have a lot of little people freestyling, and he will mix music. So he'll get someone who'll do a little take off them, and he can then mix that into a beat, and then the mic just gets passed around, and these guys just rap for 10 minutes, just freestyling. It's real cool. It's just, it blows my mind when you start diving into things like Twitch and YouTube, how many creative and amazingly talented people there are doing things that you might never come across. And you just stumble across one like that and wonder how many more there are out there.
It's incredible to how many people, like you said, that are that talented, and they
Mm,
don't have the following, or they don't have the recognition that they
mm,
really deserve. It's wild to me how, whether it's the algorithms, whether it's like just the luck, or whatever the case may be, that they're just not known by so many more people than anything else there. I recently stumbled across somebody, I think his name is Peyton Parrish, and he's a singer, like a singer songwriter, but he does like like rock and roll metal kind of style music. But he's remade like tons of like Disney songs, like
mm,
classic Disney songs, but it's like more of a like a rock style of beat. But he also does that,
yeah.
I think it's called that Mongolian throat singing, I think is
Ah,
what
yeah,
it's.
yeah, yeah.
So he does that and mixes it in. So he kind of layers in the throat singing and different pitches of audio that he wants. So he could do like 4, 5, 6 layers of audio of just his voice, and then have the beat and the guitar and all that stuff
Mhm.
playing along with him. So it's like one guy doing pretty much everything. It's really incredible.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
Sounds
it's,
very similar.
but he's got like, I think like 1 million followers on YouTube, and he might have
Mm,
other avenues of fame and whatnot. But I mean, it's one of those, like, how he doesn't have more is just beyond me. But
yeah,
I mean, that might just
yeah.
be my biases. What about inside the
Possibly.
community? Who do you follow inside the farm sim community?
I try and follow. I follow more people than I get the time to watch, which is kind of, I just like seeing what people are doing, and sometimes something will catch my eye and I'll watch it. But obviously, the Farm Sim Guy's been a huge part of my channel in terms of us starting off at a similar time. His success has risen a bit faster than mine, but we started out at a similar time, and he's become a really close friend, and that just through doing this. I see Rusty Money Gaming in here. I always try and pop into Rusty's live streams if I can, and always remember the time, because I like try and pay it back, because people have helped me get to where I am in terms of number of subs, and I like trying to share it around and introduce people to others. And I always remember the time I rated Rusty when he was on about 990 subs, and we managed to get him over that thousand mark in his live stream, which is pretty cool. But yeah, just there are a couple of the main ones. I love Mr. CLP. I enjoy watching his and following along with that. And then there's some smaller guys who've been around the channel. Farmer Taz is one who's been around us for a long time, right from when we started, and sort of got to know him. And he hasn't grown much, but he's actually doing a really cool sort of role play series at the moment, which is worth checking out. It's quite neat. But yeah, there's a few different ones.
Gotcha. And then if you could meet any three people in whether it's currently alive or in history, who would they be and why?
That I'd love to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Or just people. Yeah. We actually funny. We had this conversation. I've started whenever we're catching up with friends, like at dinner or something like that, or having them around to watch sport or that. I've always started pulling out these questions, and that's one of them. Is I did one night was how it's three people. Another one for you to think about as well. I come up with this name is what is if you had to pick one song that you could sing from start to finish and your life depended on it, what would it be? Just leave you to think about that.
Ooh,
because that's always that was a fun one. But my three people, I'd love to meet Elon Musk. I would love to sit down and just chew his brain out as an alive person. Controversially, Adolf Hitler, just because I'm just fascinated with what went through, what drove him to do what he did, and what he thought he could achieve out of it, and just understanding more about the person. When we were in Munich a couple of years ago for the first FarmCon I went to, we had the opportunity, we went out to Dachau, one of the concentration camps out there, and just sort of learned more about the history of that. And we were in some places. Obviously, Munich was where the Nazi Party was actually formed, so we saw some of the places related to that. It was kind of just interesting. It's always just something that's fascinated me, and just trying to understand, just want to learn more about it. Third, probably Michael Jordan, because I loved Air. I loved the movie Air. I thought that was just fascinating about how Nike, how he created the success for Nike, and how they did all of that, and just again what drives him as an athlete, and how he's managed to stay relevant almost. You've got a guy who's probably making $1 billion a year just off selling his brand still, and he hasn't played sport for 20 years. It's pretty cool to see. Like, my boys want Jordans.
Gotcha,
Never saw him play. Didn't do anything in the basketball. He hadn't done anything from sport. It's just a thing. Which is like Shaq's doing he's just done a Netflix series, which I've heard about but I haven't done yet. Is about Reebok and how he's bought into Reebok and trying to rebrand that, which is apparently really interesting.
I didn't know that he bought out Reebok.
He's invested in it, Shaq, and there's another player from his era, and I can't remember who it was, but yeah, they've done a series on Netflix about it.
That's something I'll have to check out myself. That'd be interesting. As a matter of fact, it's one of my favorite shorts manufacturers is Reebok. They make like the athletic shorts, and that's one of my favorite, like all around lounging around shorts. So I live in Florida now, so we spend an abundant amount of time in like shorts and t-shirts and stuff like that in this state. So it gets a little hot.
I can imagine.
I don't know what the weather's like there in New Zealand, but it's I don't know. It's hot here.
Yeah, we don't get quite as hot as that. We're more, I'd say, temperate in terms of our climate. So we've actually had a really cold run. It's obviously we've just come out of winter, isn't it? June, July. No, I'm more month of winter to go, and that. But we're sitting around 10, 12 degrees. But we had a run of sort of frost in the morning, so -2, -3 overnight. And then summer will hit, and this is Celsius, of course, sorry, not Fahrenheit. And we'll hit maybe 30 in summer if we get a good day, maybe some days into the 30s.
Okay.
But it's quite temperate. It's quite temperate.
So it's one of those where, if I remember correctly, films like Lord of the Rings was filmed in New Zealand. Do you know if that's true or not? It is.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So based on what I understand, and it's very limited, New Zealand is a beautiful country. Just you look at the film, Lord of the Rings itself.
Mhm.
It's gorgeous. There are parts that's just beautiful. Um, what kind of like area is it around you? Is it because you got the farm that you're living on, as you mentioned? Is it kind
Mhm.
of like what the movies make it out to, where it's kind of like hilly and like a bunch of kind of how am I trying to formulate this question? Um, I guess just to kind of describe what kind of like terrain it is around your
Yeah, yeah.
farm.
Yeah, so we're on a floodplain, basically, a river. So it's very flat where we are. So we're probably 20 k's as the crow flies from the ocean, and we're probably only 20, 30 meters above sea level. So it's very flat between here and the sea. But 10 kilometers to my, I'm pointing because that's which way it is, to my east, we've got a hill range, which is basically, if you know New Zealand, we're very seismically active, lots of earthquakes, a few volcanoes around. So a lot of our terrain is formed by earthquakes. We're sit on a tectonic plate between the Indo-Australian and the Pacific plates, so we've got a lot of uplift. So we basically have a mountain range which runs from the bottom of New Zealand almost all the way to the top, and in a pretty straight line when you look at it on a satellite image. Um, and they vary in height. So yeah, where I am, we're probably 10 minutes away from, well, 10 kilometers, sorry, away from some hills, and we're quite a windy region because we're actually at the lower part. So the hills start one end, they go up, and then they go down, and then they'll go up again. And we're sort of in where the saddle, if you'd like to describe it that way, and we get a lot of wind funneling through here. So we've got quite a few wind turbines on the hills near us. But then 2 hours drive to the north, we're basically standing on the foothills of Mount Doom, which was in Lord of the Rings. It's only a 2 hour drive from where I am, which is the Central Plateau, and that's where all the volcanoes are. Another hour north, and you're sort of Rotorua and Taupo, which are more of the geothermal areas, and then South Island, which is where the big Alps are. That's where the big tall Southern Alps are, and lots of really rugged mountainous terrain, lots of ski fields and that kind of thing down to the
Oh,
south. And yeah,
I mean, like I said, based
it's very
on
diverse.
yeah, it sounds like there's a little bit of everything, and it's not like it's
Mm,
a huge country or anything like that. So it's
yeah.
kind of mind blowing to me to think that there's that many different shifts in topography like that. That's
Mm,
pretty cool.
mm. It's
So
it's funny you say though, like it's funny you say New Zealand's a beautiful country and use Lord of the Rings. It's funny because when we travel, I think we take it for granted because we'll go somewhere like going to Germany or and you just get this whole different appreciation of the landscape. Getting into Scotland and driving down through the UK, because it's different. You kind of look at it with a different eye to what I'm used to. I'm just so familiar with this. It's kind of like it's not. I guess it loses its little bit of appreciation for it. You still
almost
get
like
places and go, oh, well, that's cool, but yeah.
you get desensitized to what it
Yeah.
has to offer.
Mm, mm. Yeah, 100%.
So what was your first paying job?
Well, apart from working on the farm, which I did get paid for, Dad was always he'd rather pay me to pick bags of potatoes than someone else. I worked in a part time in a sunglass store selling sunglasses.
Okay, okay.
It was a summer job, and while I was studying for a wee while.
So, what besides Farming Simulator, what were some of your favorite games that you'd play?
So probably I can even remember playing Commodore 64 plugged into a TV and playing a submarine game. Can't remember what it was, and things like Paperboy, riding your bike along the footpath and dodging bricks and cats and trying to get the paper into the perfect score in the letterbox or on the front doorstep. Um, those are some of my early memories, and then things like probably later, and when I was able to afford my own console, and that it was always around Gran Turismo, sim racing side of things. That was kind of what got me into PlayStation. Actually, I went to my uncle's house, and he had a PS1 with Gran Turismo, and I thought this is pretty cool. So from there, it was kind of I wanted to buy a PlayStation and get my own Gran Turismo and play that. So I think I've had every Gran Turismo through the years on PlayStation. Um, and then yeah, I love first person shooters, which is a complete polar opposite of playing farm sim in terms of Farm Sim's so chill, and then you get in there and play some Call of Duty, or I'm really excited to see the new Battlefield trailer, which was released in the last week, and the multiplayer trailer released yesterday, and those kind of things. Played a lot of Destiny over the years, and yeah, Apex Legends as well. So getting into the free battle royale sort of stuff, I really enjoy that.
So it sounds you got a pretty eclectic taste for
Yeah,
gaming. Like it's
yeah.
got some good diversity in there.
Yeah. The main things I haven't got into too much would be the sort of role play type games, sort of World of Warcraft or those kind of things. But in saying that, I've played a bit of GTA and looking forward to that coming out next year, and Red Dead Redemption and those kind of things too.
Excellent, excellent. All right, well, that's all the questions I have for this segment. So let's go ahead and turn our sights onto the chat. So we've got Philippa Thompson. Pippa, thank you so much for your question. Says, what is your favorite mod and map for Farm Sim?
Sorry, what was that? I was just one of the boys was asking me something.
Oh, no worries, no worries. What's one of your favorite mods and maps for the Farm Sim?
I've only spent a couple of hours on it, but Farm Sim Briscoe, who's just released Saxonham on PC only at the moment, but I know it's going to go for console testing. But I've always, from when he did his first map for 22, which is the Oaks, I just think he's done a fantastic job for someone new to the modding scene. I love, and just playing on Saxonham for a couple of hours on stream the other night, I can already see that's going to be a firm favorite map. In terms of mods is a tough one because I always different mods all the time and that. But and controversially, I'm going to say one of my own mods. I love my Anywhere Object Storage just because it filled a void for something, and it came out of a bugbear. And again, Farm Sim Briscoe has mapped the Oaks. These map makers go to all this effort to create amazing maps for us, but then to be able to use the object storage that Giants added into the game for 22, you had to use their horrible shed, which in some instances would be appropriate, but other instances it just ruined the immersion because I like playing maps the way the map maker created them. I don't go out and try and merge dozens of fields into one to have a mega field, or want to demolish sheds and get rid of all the rubbish. I just want to play it the way it was created, and that might go back to my whole growing up on a farm and the whole understanding of a farmyard and how a farm operates and wanting to do that. But just being able to put that into a shed and use one of the sheds that's on the farm as bale storage was kind of cool.
And full transparency, I'm a big fan of your mods. Now, again, with full transparency, prior to reaching out to you, I didn't realize that you were the same person who created those mods. So when I reached out originally, I was like, hey, I knew of your channel, but it just didn't dawn on me that it was the same Argsy who made those mods for the Mod Hub. And then when it finally clicked for me, I was like, oh, it's like, oh man, I use every single one of those mods, every one of them. So
nice.
So nice. Yeah,
it's funny actually, because it's still like, even for me when I have a mod released on Mod Hub, it's still a buzz to go and watch DJ and CLP and Looney Farm Guy do their reviews on it. It's still a buzz to go and see it again, and it's quite funny because often they'll they get into such the way they do their mod reviews and processes, they'll just have it written down, and you can see the sort of the it dawns with them as well. They'll read and go, oh, it's Argsy Gaming, without actually realizing, because they're just in that zone of doing what they do. So yeah, still a buzz, even though I'd call a couple of those guys friends and people I could get in touch with if I needed to. It's still cool to see.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Like I said, as a matter of fact, I literally for like my personal gaming have been playing on Lady Hill, and I just put down a one of your bunker silos for stones. I always store stones into it, and it's like it filled such a huge gap for me personally. I love it. Nice. Absolutely love it. Let's see. Pippa, thank you so very much for your question. Greatly appreciate it. Next one we got here is from Ken Adlam. Says, how's your Winchester map coming?
I saw that. I've got chat up here and just been reading it as we've been going too, just keeping on it. But it's going. I've got a renewed passion for it. So I know you're going to get into talking about this a little bit more as we go through. But Winchester's a map based in New Zealand, so it's in the South Island of New Zealand, nowhere near where I live. It was just a spot I found, which I thought would be perfect. But I spent a lot of time working on it in the first half of the year, got busy with things, lacked a little bit of motivation, put some videos out on it and revealing that I was working on it to try and have people like Ken ask me the question how it's going, which is cool. That was the whole reason. And then just recently seeing things, again, Farms and Briscoe, Sacklingham, Edo Mods, Etruria, Ray County by No Creek Farms, Oxford David's Whitcomb Farm, just seeing those being shared and what people are achieving has given me a lot of motivation to carry on. So I've kind of set myself a little bit of a task. So it's progressing, it's working. I'm feeling more relaxed about what I've got to do on it now. So I still no official release date though, but it's going. It's going.
Excellent. Ken, thank you so much for your question. Greatly appreciate it. Also, David Butterworth gave a £3 super chat. Thank you so very much, David. Greatly appreciate it. Let's see. Next question we have here is let's see, not that one. Okay, it says from Rusty Money Gaming, says Argsy, did your grandparents farm too?
Yeah, they did. Yeah, so New Zealand, I guess a little bit of history. New Zealand was really settled because we're quite a young country in terms of settlement and European colonization. For want of a better description, the area we live in was first settled in 1888. And my grandparents, or what would they be, great-grandparents were early settlers here. So in 1988, there was a centenary for our region. It's called Karenga. Well, it's not province, but just our county, I guess, for want of a better way to describe it. And there was a book prepared. So the original subdivisions, when the settlers arrived, and the block of land that my great-grandparents probably purchased is the farm my parents have now still. So it's been in the same family since it was first settled in 1888.
Wow.
So yeah, so basically, I think my son's sixth generation to have attended the local primary school. So I guess there's been 5 or 6 generations. Or if they go on to farm, it could be 4 generations now with Dad on the farm. So I'd be the 5th, and I'd be the 6th if we carried on.
Wow, that's incredible. That's wow.
Yeah.
Let's see. Rusty also asks, if so, what's your grandparents' first tractor?
I have no idea what their first tractor would have been. No idea. I know my family's first tractor was a Ford 4600, I think, or 3600. One or the others. They had both. And because Mum always joked about it, because I think she ended up buying half of it, paying for half of it, so she always joked it was her tractor as well. But yeah, that sort of Ford 2-wheel drive, maybe 100 horsepower, open station, just a rollover bar on the back, and that was about it. And that was kind of what I was using. I'd drive that when I was younger.
So, what kind of equipment do you have now in regards to tractors? Is it still that same Ford, or is it moved on from there?
No, there's one of those floating around. Dad's had a couple of John Deeres since then, so I can't remember. Is it a 6135? I think 6235. I think, yeah, somewhere around there, around that sort of mark. So it's about a mid 130 horse, 140 horsepower tractor. Because we don't do a lot of arable work anymore. Basically, it's maize or corn planted for silage for the local dairy farms. Gets chopped off, and that's about all we need a tractor for now.
Gotcha. And it appears those are all the questions I have from chat. So everybody, thank you so very much for your questions there. If you have any more questions, feel free to put them in chat. Just make sure you use a double question mark. It makes it easier to find. If you're using single question marks and I missed your question before, feel free to repost it in the chat. Just again, double question marks. So let's move on to our next segment. This is called Meat and Potatoes, emphasis on potatoes. This is where we're going to get to know you for your content creation side of things within the farm sim space. So your content creation as well as your modding side of things. So first things first, and this is a question that I had very early on when I started to kind of try and figure out who you are, because like you mentioned earlier, you did a bit of research on me in regards to the show. I do a fair bit of research on the people who I'm going to have as guests. But there's only so much that you can get through in regards to YouTube, only so much you can kind of comb through. So,
Mhm.
what's the story behind your username, Argsy Gaming?
It's part of my surname.
Oh,
So, and it's been my gaming handle since day one. It was a nickname I had at school, so Argsy. So yeah, and I just added the gaming part. But my username on PlayStation on everything is Argsy. I feel incredibly blessed because having gone through trying to create usernames for my kids and trying to create a unique username that can have some sort of personal connections, damn near impossible now because there's just so many of them. So yeah, that's as simple as that.
so for your channel, do you only produce farm sim content, or do you kind of fan out into other realms as
Yeah.
well?
Well, the whole idea was to being Argsy Gaming instead of Argsy Farming or something like that was to be more widespread, just play different games. But I kind of just fell into the whole farm sim thing to start off with. It wasn't until really this year that I've kind of branched out and only minor, a little bit of live streaming and a few things there, and just playing a few different games. Partly just I know there's been a lot discussed about FS25 and people's motivation playing it and frustration with the release and launch and that kind of thing. But there's a few games came out that I just wanted to have a play around as well. So there's a Truck World Australia, which is a truck driving sim game. I think ATS, ETS, similar to that, but set in Australia. They released a demo beta version with a little mission you could do in that. So we played that on a stream one night. We played a little bit of Roadcraft when that came out. There's another one called Architect's Life, which released a couple of months ago. So couldn't not be an architect and not play Architect's Life. So we did that as a live stream. I actually built my own house live on stream to see if I could replicate it. So yeah. I don't know. Farm Sim's where I found my success and where a lot of the community have come for the farming sim content. So I do notice that that's not quite as popular, but at the same time, going back to what I said earlier, as you grow a community, they want to come and see you, not so much what you're playing and what you're doing. So you find those people who watch you regardless of what it is, and those who just want to see the farming side of things.
And we mentioned earlier in how you've developed a few mods within the community. You're working on a map currently. Have you ever created mods or anything like that for other communities, other games? Or is this like the only one you ever
Um,
tackled?
no, no, I didn't create mods. I reskinned aircraft back in early 2000s for flight sim. So again, I just wanted to create. I got and went down the rabbit hole of wanting to personalize my flight sim experience, and I'd create. I think at the time you could maybe download air traffic for like Air New Zealand, for example. But I wanted to take it a step further. So as you're flying around New Zealand, you'd have Air New Zealand flights coming and going, and international flights arriving and leaving Auckland or wherever. But then there's a whole lot of general aviation. So we have a crop duster aerial pilot who's 2Ks down the road, and I wanted to have his plane flying around. So I managed to find the right aircraft and skin one to look the same as what that was. So that would probably be the first type of modding and only other type of modding I've ever done.
Okay. And you said that you got started back in 2020, during COVID and all that. That would put you roughly in the FS19 phase?
Yeah, 19. Yeah, yeah. So the
19.
first farm sim I actually played was FS18 on my mobile. I had a friend who had 17, but I've never played it myself. But yeah, 19 when it came out on PlayStation Network as a free to play game with their PS Plus. So that was the first thing, and it's interesting when I reflect back on it. And I think I was talking about it on stream the other night. The first 20 hours I probably played into the game was on one of the default maps, and I had no idea that mods even existed. I had no idea that you could just sell up the farm and the land and equipment. I just started off on this map, and I think it was Ravenport. I started off with the starter couple of fields, the starter little farm with the starter equipment, and just played and kind of learnt the dynamics of the game and slowly tried to expand and grow the farm that grow the first ever farm I had that way. And then I found some mods and started playing with Lone Oak. Very, very well-known map. I think a lot of people would appreciate that one. And a map called, it was an Irish map by Oxygen David. Gosh, it escapes my head right now, but wasn't even a full 2x map. It was probably a 1.5K map, and he didn't use the whole map. But yeah, that was probably, and I put hundreds of hours just casually playing on PlayStation into that before I even thought about making content.
So you didn't start making content right away. It was one of those where you held off. How long did you hold off before you started making content for your channel?
It was when the game was released on Epic as a free game as well. So then I had it on PC, and I only had a laptop at that stage. It's the laptop I was using for work, working from home with during COVID, and yeah, when it came out on Epic, I was able to get it, and that sort of spurned a bit of interest. Obviously, going through learning how to play Farm Sim, I spent a lot of time watching YouTube. Binged a whole lot of Daggerwin because you search Farm Sim on YouTube and you get the big creators, not so much the little ones, and you just fall down a rabbit hole and learn a whole lot that way. And there was he was doing work with he does his multiplayer stuff with Chainsaw 100, who does time lapse, and that was kind of like a nice like, oh, I could do that. So the first sort of 12 months, 10-12 months was just time lapse. So no microphone, no camera, just recorded myself playing for an hour and a half, and then sped it up and put a video up.
I gotcha. So let's compartmentalize your kind of farm sim experience here. You've got your channel on one hand, and you've got your kind of modding on the other. So first, focusing on the channel, what was one thing that you never expected when you started creating content? Uh, some examples I give are the sense of community, unexpected backlash. What's something that you never expected in regards to your channel?
Um, I never expected it to get to 20,000 subs. I didn't know what to expect when I got into it, and where it'd end up. But yeah, I think probably the one thing I say it a lot is I feel that you meet people all around the globe, and there would be very few countries I would feel like couldn't be dropped in the middle of a country, put a post on my YouTube, and say, I'm stuck in the middle of wherever, I need a bed. Is there someone nearby? I reckon there'd be a lot of countries I'd be able to find someone who'd take you in, or you'd know through the community, and would be prepared to help you out. And that's probably one of the things I've never really thought of. I don't know why, but you just kind of, yeah, it just opens the globe up to opens you up to so much more.
Absolutely. And pretty much the same question, but in regards to your modding. What did you have happen that you didn't expect to happen in regards to your mod creations?
Um, Probably just oh, all the mods I've made have been for me. I haven't gone out and made something because someone else wants it. And it's just people just popping up and saying how much they appreciate something, and taking the time to thank you for making it, and how useful or how much it's improved their experience of the game. Because everything I've done is stuff I've wanted to have in the game myself, and I've sort of found ways to do it. So it was just, once I'd done it, I was like, well, actually, I find it useful. Surely there's one other person out there who might find it useful. Let's see if I can get it on Mod Hub or release it through Itch, and make it downloadable for someone, and hopefully it can help their experience. But actually to hear that it does, and hear that people really enjoy it or find it, like exactly like you've said, I don't know who downloads it. It doesn't give me a notification. I just know how many times it's been downloaded from Mod Hub. So to actually hear people who know of me through that way, or have enjoyed and found a mod really helpful and useful. That's probably the coolest part.
Let's see. And uh do you ever do modding with having no intention to releasing it to the public?
No, not yet. I've no. I'd say no. I've adjusted things to suit my playstyle sometimes. One of the that's how I've learnt a lot of my modding is just playing around with someone else's mod, someone else's map, just to customize it. So one of the early things we did was in 19 FSG and I in our multiplayer series, we're playing in West Texas. And when we were setting up, I was like, this would be cool if this shed that we're putting down in our yard had a big Texas flag on it. So I was like, right, I'll figure out how to put a Texas flag on the side of a building. Did that. We wanted to add anhydrous to the map because it wasn't part of the map. So I was like, right, sit down and figure out how to do that. So those are a couple of the things that I've done where I'm, obviously don't intend to release them, but anything I'm creating myself from scratch that isn't an edit, I will 100% try and release it.
Okay. And do you always strive to, or do you want to strive to try and bring it out to all platforms, or is it just one of those where it just kind of depends on what it is that you're working on at that time?
I'll always try and make it all platform. Having been a console player right from the start, like that was where I started out playing on console, and I can appreciate the frustrations of the limitations. But I always want to, that's 50% of the community. Why would I not want to make it if I can? Part of it. So the only mod I've had so far on Mod Hub that's not compatible with console is a fertilizer pack for New Zealand, and it's because it's using New Zealand brands, real life brands. So Balance, which is what my drink bottle here is a fertilizer company that my father-in-law actually used to work for, and their bags can't be on console just because of branding issues. So everything else has been cross-platform, and the map I intend 100% for the map to be, and I'd rather have more people able to use it and play it and enjoy it than just limiting it to PC players.
So
which is sorry, I was just going to say, which is probably leads into a little bit of why my first video, I know Rusty mentioned it before, was a video I did probably 10 months into having the channel, where I just showcased every John Deere equipment available in FS19, because there was heaps of, and anyone can remember back, every other post on a Facebook group, on a Discord group, on a video was, there's not enough John Deere equipment. People are just complaining left, right, and center. There's not enough John Deere. There's not enough John Deere. We need this, this, this. And I'd sit there and look at Mod Hub and go, I'm playing with heaps of John Deere stuff. There's heaps available. Like, are people just not looking? Is it just easier? And this goes to our conversation a little bit beforehand. Is it easier just to write a message and complain about something than actually Google it, search for it? And that's an ongoing joke, as people will come into a community and say, where did you get X mod? And it's just like, well, did you try Googling FS25 Argsy and find what you got for that? And it's just, people find it easy to ask someone else to do it themselves. But I was like, well, I'm going to put a video together where I'm going to get every mod that's a John Deere piece of equipment that's available for all platforms. And I downloaded it all, and the Millennium Farmer map was out, and I put it all in there, and I went through and I highlighted every piece of equipment. I said what it was called, who the modder was, had links. I think I had a spreadsheet that had a link for it and everything like that. Just put it some music and just highlighted it all. I broke it down by equipment, so I had tractors, combines, and then tillage or mowers or whatever as the third part, seeders, all of those bits and pieces. And that was the video that kind of, I think I don't know how many subs I got off it, but really started the channel off. I guess I was just meandering through making Let's Play videos, just doing time lapse, and I found a way to do that, and that one blew up, and I don't know, it might be 150,000 views or something now, which
wow,
was where a lot of people, and like Rusty said, found my channel through.
That's awesome, though. I mean, it's funny in how something where at least I presume that you weren't going on making that video with the intention of like, hey, this is gonna blow up, it's gonna get 150k views and stuff like that. You're just like come on, guys, like, here you go,
look at them all. There's heaps. There's heaps.
And then it goes like out there, and you get a huge swath of subscribers, that you got tons of views and all that. I mean, how surprised were you when that kind of went out there and it got that kind of traction?
I mean, I was surprised. I was surprised. Obviously, I was hopeful that it would in some regard, because obviously I was, what are people passionate about? Obviously, there's a lot of passion for John Deere out there because of all the people complaining about it. So, you kind of, it was a calculated gamble, I guess, that it might get a few more vids and a few more views, but it was complete departure from what I've been doing elsewhere. So I actually went through and did one for case equipment on Lone Oak because it had a case dealer. I thought this would be a fantastic place to do it. Nowhere near the views. like this was after I'd already done the John Deere one and already had people subscribing because of it. But the one I did for the case, highlighting all the case equipment, might be a tenth of the number of views that the John Deere ones had. So it was kind of, it was, you know, I knew the brand was popular. I knew people wanted to see it, and I just thought it might work. And I'd seen, you know, again with FSG, because we both started off at the same time, he had a lot of success with Flint Hills when that map came out, and you know, no one had seen it, no one had jumped on it, and he kind of, you know, that was something for him that got a lot of traction for his channel. And so that probably motivated me to see what can I do a little bit different to what everyone else is doing to try and generate some views, generate some follows, subscribers, and yeah, it took a long time to put together, and it was a big time investment. So I guess, you know, if it hadn't worked, maybe we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
Well, I mean, we would have. It just wouldn't have that part of it to talk about.
True.
So we've established that you're still working on your map. Do you have any other mods or ideas for mods that you are wanting to work on in the future?
I've always got a list of things. And like I said before, it's always around things I want to have for me. So I'll make a mod for me first and then offer it to people to use. And if people want to use it, that's great. If they don't, they don't. But one of the things I have really fond memories of as a youngster was my grandparents would make hay every year, and I'd make the little small bales, what we call conventional bales. I don't know if that's a universal terminology or not, but ones you can pick up by hand and throw around every year. And that was always a highlight for me, was getting out on the farm. I always remember Nana would make this lemon drink, which was this really nice, refreshing, fresh squeezed lemon with pulp and everything in it. It was just, you know, that was one of the highlights. But the way we did the hay, it was the hay shed was in the centre, all the fields around it were mown. They'd go in and press it, and then on the front of one of the little tractors, probably was the 3600, the little Ford, we'd have a hay sweep, and it was basically, it was mounted on the front, and it had two prongs, and you'd drive around and sweep the bales up. So you'd pick the bales up on the front of the tractor and just push them to the hay shed, and then in the hay shed you'd have the hay elevator, like you saw in the FSL. They had the hay elevator to get the bales up into the top of the barn. We'd have that, which you'd elevate, and as the bales got stacked further up and higher into the shed, you'd use the elevator to lift them up and then stack them in the top. So I have this plan where I'd love to be able to recreate that by basically a front mounted sweep that you'd be able to push the bales with to a barn, use the elevator, which would have some sort of auto load or something that pick it up at the bottom, kind of like the way it picks it up on the side of the Anderson bale loaders. Carry it to the top, get to the top, and you'd use anywhere object storage or a custom hay barn, which would have a trigger at the top. So when the bale got to the top, it automatically started stacking them into the shed. So, and that's just something to recreate, something from my childhood, rather than, you know, encouraging people to do that more.
No, I mean that sounds awesome to me. What's one mod that you would love to make, but either you feel like you don't have the knowledge base, or it's just too intimidating, quote unquote, to for you to be able to tackle at this point in time?
I played a lot on a 16x West Australia map back in FS19. Again, that was one of the videos I had a lot of success with, running a lot of courseplay and auto drive and lots of equipment. And again, that was just me wanting to play, and people seemed to resonate with people and they enjoyed it. But I've located, you know, I'd love to see another big Western Australian map. When we were flying into Australia a couple of months ago for our trip up to Hamilton Island, we flew over some areas of inland New South Wales, Lower Queensland, and just saw these massive farms that were just huge. And I thought, you know, this is actually what it's like. You know, people look at it and go, "Oh, is it actually like that?" Yeah, it is. But again, I found another area of Western Australia I'd love to do something similar with, but I just can't get. You know, one, I want to get my map finished first, but to go to that size map's a bit daunting. It's 16 times bigger than the one I'm making now, but the saving grace is it's just expansive land rather than lots of roads and lots of farmyards. It's just everything's spread out. So that might be one of the things I'd love to do from a mapping point of view. Modding, you know, lots of people have talked about it, the old New Holland bale stackers. Again, people have had a go before and never successfully finished it, or it's been something that's not got to the finish line or not been done very well. I'd love to see something like that done. But vehicles, I think, is outside my wheelhouse now.
Okay, okay. So I've talked to several modders, map makers for this Farm Sim Talk. I
Mm.
saw Cavalier Roy in the chat there. We've had an interview with him. We had the Shanty Boys. We've had Gaming Joy. We've had quite a few modders, map makers out there in the community to do this show. Um, and one kind of running theme that I've seen throughout talking with so many of them at up until this point, and really it's not even is just a kind of a unique thing to the modders out there, but it's also unique to the content creators as well. But do you ever offer like assistance to other creators, other modders, map makers, content creators, whatever the case may be, to help them along in their journey?
Um, a little bit. I wouldn't say I've gone out of my way significantly to do it. But there's people where I'm part of, Discord groups or something like that, and people will send something through. There's been a few times with content creators where they've sent me a video and said, "What do I think about it?" and thumbnails and things like that. Where I've a couple of times I've taken someone's thumbnail and just zhuzhed it up a little bit and just said, "If you do this and this and this, it's going to make it feel better. Don't do it, do it. It's up to you. But here's my suggestions for what you could do for it." Um, Modding, I still don't feel like I'm still learning, and there's still a lot for me to figure out, and I'll try and help people with how I've learned things and just encourage them to do it the same way I have, which is trying to put a flag on the side of a building or add a fill type to a map or something like that, and just understand how Giants Editor and XML coding and all those kind of things work, because it's something I've had to figure out. The 3D modeling side of it with my background has actually come really easy. I find that a breeze, but once I've got the 3D model, it's where it gets a little bit harder to do the texturing and make it a working game. But at the same time, I've offered plenty of times to mappers that I might be working closely with who are struggling with something, and I'll offer to reach out to someone else I might have a contact with just to see, and put people in touch with each other. If I can't help, here's who might be able to, and here's a connection to them to be able to do it.
That's the one thing that we were kind of talking about it before the stream there, but I've always mentioned how amazing this community is, how willing people are to help others out, or point them in the right direction, or even if they don't have the knowledge base to be able to help, point them to somebody who may be able to help, kind of thing.
Mm.
And based on what you're saying here, it sounds like you're kind of going around that same vein, that you're, even if you don't have the answers, you'll be able to at least point them in the right direction. And that, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is what makes this community so amazing, is that the fact that everybody is so willing to, at bare minimum, say the answer you seek is in that direction. Go that way,
Mm.
kind of thing.
Mm.
And I
Yeah.
mean, would you agree that this community of people is like one of the tops that you've been a part of, or just what would your opinion of the community be?
I think as a whole the community's amazing. Every every apple tree is going to have 1 or 2 rotten apples, which is the analogy I always use. So I know people who've struggled, or those rotten apples are the ones that you smell first because they stink. They're the ones who speak up and are prepared to put a word in a message or make a comment, left field comment. Just to not let that get to you, because the other 99% are the ones that are there to support you and appreciate the time and effort you've gone to putting something together, whether it's something you've created, whether it's a video, whether it's a mod, or just to help you out. Like I'll help anyone who's demonstrated that they've put some effort into coming up with the solution themselves. I'll be more than happy to help. What the ones I don't like is someone who just says, "I need help with this," and they don't say, I've run a Google search, I've tried to contact XYZ, I've looked through all of this, and I just, for the life of me, cannot track this mod down or can't find something. You're prepared to go and spend 5 minutes and say, well, maybe you can find it this way, or have you looked this way? But it's the ones who just walk in and expect cap in hand for you to just roll over and do their legwork for them. That's the ones that really frustrate me, I guess. and you're less likely to help. But that, again, that's those one percenters, and I think the community as a whole is pretty quick to weed that out and support each other, build each other up, and yeah, just be really relaxed about things. And that's what I've enjoyed the most. You know, like I said, I've played plenty of first person shooters, and the toxicity and that sort of thing that can come through in some of those games is pretty eye opening. But yeah, you just don't get that at all with Farm Sim, which is cool.
So, like I mentioned, I did an interview with Gaming Joy, and I'm going to quote him as best as I possibly can. And basically, uh, his quote was, "I won't do the work for you, but I will, again, I'll point you in the right direction." Kind of thing.
Mm,
And it sounds like
mm,
that's exactly what you're talking about. It's like, hey, I'm not going to do the work for you. You got to show that you are motivated enough to be able to do the work. I'm just going to like help in whatever way I can. Cause I mean, let's face it, you've got a full-time job, it's a pretty demanding job. It's one of those that, if you do even one thing wrong, it can lead to absolutely devastating results. So it's one of
mm,
those where this being kind of your side gig, your something that you're just kind of doing as a means to either fill the gap or fill the free time, or just to have general fun with. It's one of those that, hey, I'm only gonna make myself so available to
mm.
be there as a kind of guiding force, which I mean makes total sense. It's absolutely one of those where you are only going to be able to give so much. I mean, anybody can
Mm.
only give so much. So,
Well, it's the same as give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime, right? If you can learn to do something by doing rather than just being spoon fed it, then you're going to be much better off in the future. And that's the adage I've stuck to with my modding is, and anything I've learned, whether it's with YouTube, how to edit, everything's been self-taught. I've either watched videos or I've just opened up a mod. How does Oxygen David make his roads look so good? Download the mod, open it in GE, look at what he's done to create that effect and aesthetic, and how can you learn from what he's done and take it into what you're trying to create and either make it better, make it your own. Don't just go and copy it, but how can you learn from that and apply similar techniques or that sort of thing.
absolutely. No, that's 100% right. And it's one of those where, I mean, I don't do any modding or anything like that. I just don't have the technical understanding to be able to do it. Maybe one day I'll kind of branch out into it, but I've certainly, helped out people in the community, whether it's, with advice for, their channels or whatever the case may be. What I like, if they ask my opinion on something, I'll give them my honest opinion kind of thing and offer them suggestions. Just exactly what you're saying there. And let me know if you agree with this or not, but I oftentimes will give that level of advice or that kind of insight into what it is that I have knowledge in, because one, you never know by imparting. Oh, look at the little
Sorry, puppy
doggy!
dog. Yeah, she's waking up from her nap.
Oh, what a little cutie!
Yeah, Stella.
So,
Sorry, train of thought just ruined by a dog.
oh yeah, yeah, that's exactly. It's you ever seen the movie Up?
Yeah,
You know the dog that's in there. It's like squirrel.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's me with dogs.
There you go. Sorry.
But so, anyways, I've always been willing to share knowledge because you never know the person who's going to be able to take said knowledge and make something amazing from that kind of thing. Do you
Hmm.
kind of feel like you have that kind of same train of thought? Is, I'm willing to give up these secrets. I'm willing to kind of do these things because you never know what it is they'll be able to do with that knowledge.
Yeah, 100%. Like, the person sitting next to you could have the cure for cancer. They just haven't unlocked it yet. And if there's something you can do to help them unlock it, and that's obviously a very extreme analogy, but if you can help someone unlock something by imparting a little bit of knowledge to them that helps trigger whatever it is that they have inside them, then yeah, I'm all for it. The world will be a
Ab-
better place if everyone shares all of that.
Absolutely. So, thinking back to the three mods that you have released on the Mod Hub currently, What mod took you the longest to make?
They've all been in different stages. So they've, one would have taken the longest. Probably the shed pack, just because of the variance in it. The I'd made a lot of the shed pack actually for 22, but just never got around to gaming it. So when it came to 25, I was like, oh, there's no point doing it now. I'll finish it off. The bulk bunker I had working for myself wasn't working perfectly in 22. So again, it just because I make them all for myself, I make them until I'm happy with them and they work and I can use them in a game and then see what I can finish off. But they all started on, like, obviously the anywhere object storage, which was the first one I did, was how do I strip that out of Giant's shed to make it something that can work on its own, and what can I add to it to help it work. So I think it's at Schultz Modding's buildable feedlots that he made. He had the trigger there and used the mesh to show where the triggers were going to be, where the nav planes were in 22. And I was like, well, that's a great way to do that. I'm going to use his methodology and I can apply that to my object storage to be able to demonstrate where the outdoor areas are. But the indoor areas aren't quite the same. So actually, I'll put some poles in, which are, again, because they're not, I did put a texture on them, but because they really don't matter, because the idea is you hide them afterwards, I wasn't too worried about how they look. But that didn't actually require any 3D modeling or any knowledge of Blender or something like that. So it was a lot of cut and paste in Giants Editor and cut and paste in XML to get to where I was with that. And then after I obviously took a lot of time understanding how the mod descriptions, how the store icons, how the screenshots and everything works to submitting a mod to Mod Hub. I was like, right, what's next? Let's do something that's a reskin of something. So the fertilizer pack was just basically how do I retexture an existing Giants mod, which was the pallets and the big bags. So again, learning a different way, and that's how I understood how texturing worked a little bit better. How the diffuse, the speculars, and the normal maps all work in texture. So that was kind of a way to learn that. And then it became the 3D modeling, right? The bulk bunkers or the pole shed. I need to use Blender to be able to create those because they're not something I can use that's already there. So that's where the whole kind of starting to piece get all together. So the 3D modeling, how do I create an i3D from Blender into Giants Editor? How do I texture that? So again, there was a lot of learnings from other people, a few video calls with people who do placeables to, and guys like Trailer Park Farms actually created a little 20-minute video and said, this is how I texture it, and sent that through. And Dave's Modding, who did a potato sheds in 19, who's gone into the backgrounds of Farm Sim at the moment, but him and I spent a lot of time, and he taught me through ways he did things. So I learned from those people how to do some of those bits I wasn't comfortable with, to the point where I feel like I could, if you, for example, said, I've got a 3D model, I don't know how to put textures on it, I could talk you through the way I do it. It might not be the right way, but at the end of the day, it gets a result that is acceptable to Giants, and in my eye, looks good. So that's kind of been a progression of learning Giants Editor and a little bit of XML, and then learning texturing and a bit more XML, and then learning the 3D modeling and the texturing and putting it all together to build a 3D model like the sheds.
Gotcha. So again, separating out your channel from your mods, what's one bit of advice that you give to somebody who's trying to break into the whole content creation sphere? What's that one bit of advice you would
Mhm.
say?
Just be yourself. Be yourself, and don't try and create something else someone else is doing. Just if you're enjoying playing the game, if you're playing a map you're having fun with, if you're playing in a way that you're enjoying and having fun with, that will come through in your content. If you're doing like a let's play with a microphone, with the camera, or streaming, or whatever it is, if you're having fun doing it, then people will enjoy doing it. Someone else will enjoy what you're doing, and they'll enjoy the way you do it and appreciate it for what you're doing. So that would be the biggest bit for a content creator. Don't go out and try and imitate someone else, because in the end of the day, it's not you, and you'll get tired of the charade for however long you try and keep it up for.
And then same question, but on the modding side, what would you give that bit of advice to in regards to somebody who's trying to create mods for the first time?
Yeah, and this is probably the opposite: is find someone who's done something what you want to do, download it, unzip it, open it in Giants Editor, open the XML code, just have a look and see how they've done it to learn the proper way to do it, and then take that knowledge to create your own mod. So I hadn't really thought about the fact that one instance you'd say be yourself, and another instance learn by doing from the way others have done it.
And would you consider Farm Sim to be your favorite game, like full sentence stop, or would you say that there's something else out there that's got the top spot?
Um, oh, it's certainly right up there. I mean, it's just such a different genre to other games. It's a sandbox. You can play it however you want to, and if you want to just be your forester, you can just be forester. If you just want to be a dairy farmer, you can be a dairy farmer. If you want to drive combines, you can drive combines. There's just so much variance in there. In terms of the last 5 years, it's definitely the game that's probably held my attention for the longest, and I've invested the most time in. And I mean, the question would be, is if I wasn't doing content creation, would I've done that? Maybe I would have found more time for some of the other games that I've missed out on. And that's probably the one thing I do regret with it, is missing out on spending time exploring other games and discovering other games that have come out. Like Roadcraft, for example, I haven't spent anywhere near as much time playing that as I would have loved to, just because that downtime between content creation and having free time to play games. I've got my mates I still play on a Tuesday night with, and I've got another mate I often play on a weekend with, and it's just having the time to do it all. But yeah, Farm Sim's definitely one of the all-time favorites I've played, and I wish I'd discovered it earlier.
So we established that you started playing back in FS19, which means that you've made it through 19, 22, and now into 25.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking back to each of those iterations, what was your favorite map from 19, 22, and now currently been released in 25?
19, I'd have to say, favorite map. I'm going to have to remember what maps came out, but Shamrock Valley was one that I really enjoyed, and that was the one I was thinking about before. Oxygen David map that I played a lot on console, because it felt a lot like New Zealand. If I couldn't have a New Zealand map, that one felt quite similar in terms of a rolling hill country type map. But then getting into some of the Australian map, like Western Australia, the 16x on that, I absolutely loved that, just because you had so much scope for just exploring it and just running lots of equipment, and I think it's hard to pinpoint a map, because the game playstyle on a map that's a postage stamp versus a 16 or 8 kilometer square piece of dirt is quite different. But those would be a couple that stand out from 19. 22, one of my favorites was Southern Cross Station by Hawks 23, who's an Australian modder, does a lot of Australian maps. That one was very cool. I enjoyed playing on that. Spent a lot of time live streaming on that one, and it just had some really cool variety on that. And 25, I don't know. I don't think I've got found my favorite map yet. I think there's still a masterpiece out there that'll come through and just blow my mind.
And again, thinking back to the iterations of 19, 22, and 25, are there any of the maps that kind of stand out? It would be your least favorite. Not to say that they're bad, but just things that just you didn't care for.
No, I wouldn't. I don't think. I think every map I've played on, I've enjoyed aspects of it. And it's because I played on it. And if I'm picking a map to play on, it's going to be for a particular reason. And I'll do my research into it before I actually spend any time in the map. So no, I really can't think there's one that I'd be negative about.
Okay. And if you could pick any map, thinking back from 19 and 22, what's the one map that you'd bring to FS25? You could just snap your fingers, poof, it's there.
Yeah. I'd go for Flint Hills by JS Mapping. It's cool.
Gotcha. Map. Let's see. And do you tend to keep up with any of the Farm Sim news, like things that are happening in the future kind of thing?
Yeah, well, so as a partner, and actually something we haven't even talked about yet, is the fact I'm now a farming simulator cultivator, being one of the first 20 cultivators picked for Farm Sim. Yeah, that was announced on Tuesday.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, that's a whole new thing. But as being a partner, we're fortunate enough to often hear about things a few days earlier than everyone else. I'm looking forward to the map though. I mean, obviously there's a lot of info out there about the Scottish map, Kinley, and the fish farming. Fish farming, I'd honestly had an inkling about that for quite some time, and there've been murmurs about it, but it just looks so much more involved than I ever expected it would be. I was just expecting, the tanks that are on Riverbend Springs being just you're farming fish in a tank, but to actually have the opportunity to stand on a bridge and fish into a waterway or have boats you can take out to fish, I think that's going to be exciting. But it's also going to open so much up for modders. I think if they've introduced a way for boats to work on water and that sort of thing, I can just see how that's going to progress a little bit further. I think if they're doing that, then potentially aerial top dressing or something like that may not be too far away. Who knows?
So you mentioned that you are a cultivator. Do you care to
Hmm.
explain what that entails in case not everybody here
Yeah.
who's listening tonight knows what that is?
Yeah, sure. So Farming Simulators had ambassadors for a long time, and it kind of the program kind of didn't disappear, but it kind of just wasn't being used in any way. So the ambassadors were content creators or people in different regions who were seen to be obviously promoting FarmSim or there as a representative of FarmSim. So they've been working a long time in the background to refresh that program. And so instead of calling it ambassadors, they've gone away from that name and I've called them cultivators, and they're community cultivators. So they opened it up, and it's a developing program where more people will be added to it over time. There's 20 people have been selected at the moment across Brazil, the US, Thailand, I want to say India, Eastern Europe, France, Germany, the US, the UK. Um, yeah, I think I'm the only one in New Zealand or Australia at the moment. So there's 20 people have been selected for the program, and the idea is to act as a conduit to the local community. So Giants will support with setting up in-person events. So things like Llama, which happened, which Farmer Cop, DJ, Mr. CLP, FSG, they've all put together in the UK this event where it coincides with a agricultural fair in winter, and they meet there and kind of bring the community together and have 100 people or something come along to this event, and it's just a chance to meet and mingle and have a chat about farming and share a passion for it. So the whole idea is I call them these barnyard meets, where we're encouraged and supported by Giants to be able to create community events, in-person community events in your region. So I'm going to be putting out a survey soon for New Zealanders, for Kiwis to do, and just to get some information around what people might want to do if I was able to create some in-person meetups. It could be something along the lines of the opportunity we had when we went to Case last year and got to drive Case tractors, get a map tour, get a tour of the factory, and play the FS25 a little bit early. Is could we do something where we get DLC a week early and we can time an event around that DLC release where people can come and actually experience it themselves and do something in person? I don't know. Or whether it's just we go to a John Deere dealer and have a look at the equipment and just have a chat for a couple of hours and talk through FarmSim. So that's the cultivator program, but at the same time is to work as a conduit between Giants and the community. So what do New Zealand FarmSim players want to see in the game? What would make the game better for someone from New Zealand or someone from Australia or something like that? Because obviously, like I was saying, animals, for example, quite different how farming in New Zealand with cattle and sheep and everything is done compared to other parts of the world. So just a little bit of a conduit between that. So that was something I've
Excellent.
been fortunate enough to be selected to be part of, which is cool. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, no, that's sounds fantastic. I mean, being able to,
Mm.
help out in your local area to kind of network and to bring people into the community, get them excited over, specific aspect, whew, words are hard, aspects of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's fantastic. That's really cool being able
Mm.
to do something like that. I'm glad to see
Mm.
that Giants is putting the effort into bringing that back and making an effort
Yeah.
into making sure that the community is being like involved in more than just here's the game, have fun.
Yeah, like farm. I've been to FarmCon twice, and it's an amazing experience. But not everyone's in the position to be able to do that, and I'm not going to be able to recreate a FarmCon in New Zealand for 100 people. But if I can get 20 FarmSim players to the same place at the same time, and we can just socialize and talk FarmSim and have a couple of have a bale stacking competition or just do something that's a community focused thing. The thing to be really clear about, I've got into doing this, and I know everyone else has been selected for this. It's for the community. It's not for me to promote Argsy Gaming and have a vessel to do it. It's to it's to support the community and make Giants just a little bit more visual. And yeah, what form it takes over the next 6 to 8 months, I have no idea. It's something I toyed about with. We have a local field days event here, which is um, only a 20-minute drive from where I am every March, and I've toyed with the idea of having an event saying I'm going to be at such and such a location on the Saturday for 2 hours. If you want to come and say hi and have a chat about farm sim, I'll be there. But I've always felt really awkward doing it just as me. Like to go, I've always thought I could go to one of the local tractor suppliers and say, can I use part of your expo space to do this? But I think being able to go to it and say I'm part of the Giants community network to be able to do it just gives it a little bit more backing. So hopefully that'll spur some things like that along. That's a dream anyhow. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll say this, good luck with everything that you do for it, because I think it's an awesome program. I mean, it's one of those that anytime that, a company like Giants can go out and like just continue to push out, like, hey, this is what we can do for the community, it's top notch in my opinion.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
thinking again, separating the channel from your creation side, the mods.
Mhm.
Thinking back, when FS25 was being announced, we got that kind of slow drip of information from Giants. Hey, there's going to be, God rays. Hey, there's going to be weather events. There's going to be ground deformation. All these different like little key features that Giants was kind of teasing.
Mhm.
Now, thinking to your content creation side of things, your channel side of things, what's that one feature that you were the most excited about before it was released?
Probably the ground deformation. Getting that real 3D effect with the plowing and actually vehicles have some effect on the ground. I know it's not a permanent thing and we're not getting stuck or anything like that, but just having that visually I thought was quite cool.
And then same question, but in regards to the modding, what feature did you think was like, wow, that's gonna make like modding just that much cooler, or
Mm.
whatever the case may be?
It's probably not an easy one to say with that because I think I'm so young in my modding journey. There wasn't anything I was looking at it from that point of view. I was really looking at it with the content creator's lens. But I guess from a map creation side of things, all those bits really just add to the dynamics of a map and just can help. Like the fog and God rays, probably, if I was going to pick one, if you're looking at making a map visually look more aesthetically beautiful, and being having my design background, that's what I look at. I was like, that just looks great looking across a field with some fog sitting in a valley with the sun shining through a tree at 8 o'clock in the morning. You just get these wow moments. And quite often, like, I'll go back through my screenshots and I'll take screenshots for thumbnails and I'll take screenshots because something just looks beautiful. And there's just these moments you get where you go, oh wow, this game's a beautiful game, and it's beautiful because of those um, functions and features I've added in. So I guess it's a modding, and to get back to your question, is those God rays and fog, just to make a map look better, sort of appealed to me.
So, was there ever a feature that was, like I said, announced before FS25 was, actually released to the general public? Was there a feature that you're like, okay, I'm excited for this, but then once you actually got the game in your hands, that you kind of soured on? Was there anything like that?
No, there's nothing I've soured on. I don't think. I think It's interesting. I got drawn back to watching one of my earliest videos a week or so ago. It had a historic copyright claim just popped up out of nowhere for some music that I'd used, which was fully okay, but it's just not worth arguing about. So you just turn off monetization and forget about it. Um, but I look back at it and I think I was spreading fertilizer in a wheat field, and the wheat was only just growing. I can't remember what crop it was, but when I looked at that and I was like, gosh, that looks terrible compared to what, first growth stage looks like on a crop now. I encourage anyone who's played across to go back and have a look at something from FS19 and just see how far the game has developed just in those simple visuals. Um, yeah, yeah, it's just, I think the iterations have been much bigger than people realize because you don't have that perspective to go back and look at what it was.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, and I think a lot of people also kind of silo certain things in regards
Mm.
to like, oh, well, everything looks the same or everything like this, that, and the other. It's like, okay, well, you know, did you pop in 19 and then look at 22 and then look at 25? Like, are you just kind of
Mm.
what's the kind of way I want to describe it? Is it one of those that you're just kind of not really paying that much attention, or you're just
Yeah,
kind of looking to complain just to complain kind of thing?
yeah. Do you know,
Um,
I always draw the comparison for something like that is if you're going to go buy a new TV, you've got a 6 or 7 year old TV. You go into a TV shop and you can look at 7, 8 different types of TVs, and you can hardly pick a difference out between them. It might be Samsung, Sony, Panasonic, whatever the brands are. They're all so similar, but they all have slightly different features, and you can hardly pick out how much better than they are than each other. But you get it home and put it together next to your TV that's 6 years old, and they're light and day apart.
yep,
But
exactly.
you're comparing 6 brand new TVs against each other versus what you've had for so long. And then you forget about it too. You forget about give it 2 years and suddenly that TV's perfect for what you're watching, perfect for what you need. Like my TV's 8 years old and it does me fine. But I'm sure if I went in and put it side by side with a brand new TV, it'd be like, wow, what am I missing out on?
Yeah, exactly. So, what's one thing in farming, or what's one thing not in Farming Simulator that you really wish was in there?
Um, so there's two of the things, and I've had this conversation many a time. I'm going to go for a couple of things. One is I'd love to see more diversity in the way that crops are, the way that crops work. So I'm talking about things. At the moment we have herbicide to spray weeds and fertilizer for the plants to grow. But we have nothing around pesticides or fungicides or any of those kind of things. Like I've got a copy of, if you remember the old Sim Farm, the top-down farm one, which was a DOS-based game a long time ago. I've found that and was playing it on an emulator, and it had pests, it had watering, it had fungicides, it had herbicides, so it had all of those things, and you didn't have to mix anything. You just clicked on and said, "Go spray that, go deal with that." Um, but I'd love to see more variety in the way that crops can have issues. All those things that farmers have to deal with on a daily basis. You don't just go and fertilize your crops and spray your weeds. You've got to manage the risk of pests or the risk of fungus, depending on whether it's been a wet year or a dry year or all of those kind of things. So that's one thing I'd love to see more variety in that side of things with the crop maintenance. And the second is around animals. I'd love to be able to actually have more mustering of animals. So you've actually got to, I like the way that at the moment they eat the grass. They can use the grass in a pasture. If you've got a barn with pasture, I'd love that grass to run out, and then you can move them to another barn. And this is a New Zealand thing because we move animals are all outside, and when they finish the grass in one field, they get moved to another one with fresh grass, and that grass regrows. So that's more tied to how we farm, but yeah, that would be cool. I know there's some cool mods like the herdsman stick and that which give you that ability to do it, but to actually see them being moved would be cool.
No, I completely hear you there. That would definitely be a good addition to the game.
Yeah,
Almost like
there's actually
go
so
ahead.
I was going to say there's a game being developed in Australia actually, which is all about cattle mustering. And you can fly helicopters and drive quads and um, utes or trucks or whatever you want to call them, to muster cattle from, I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's been developed for a wee while, which looks kind of cool. Livestock Simulator? I think it's Livestock Simulator, actually. They had a beta version. It's on Steam. So that looks kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
I don't know if there's ever not going to be some sort of simulator out there. It's one of those, like, I was watching somebody play like a power washing simulator or something along those lines. Like, what is there not going to be a simulator of nowadays?
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing with Farm Sim is you've got to realize, like, they pride themselves on being the only farming simulator that has licensed machinery brands, and that's their, as a company, that's their focus on providing the best licensed machinery brands. The farming side of it's almost secondary to them. I mean, it's obviously a very important part of the game, but when I had that explained to me at FarmCon, I was kind of like, well, that makes a whole lot of sense. You know, you're wanting to represent these brands and being the game that provides these brands. Yeah, it's kind of an interesting when you look at it with that colored glass on. It's a little bit different.
No, and I don't think that ever dawned on me before, but that actually makes a load of sense because yeah, I can't think of another game that like actually has the brands in them. They might have the color scheme or at least some kind of close facsimile to it, but no, that's you're right. That's I don't know why that never dawned on me before. Wow,
Yeah,
that's
so that's
wild.
definitely a difference. Yeah.
So, as a content creator, you at least I often find it to where there are times where we will play out a map and we'll play it in a certain style, like we'll play it ultra realistic, or on another map we'll be like, okay, let's let everything go off to like crank the volume to 11 and just get wild and crazy kind of thing. Do you have like a preferred way of how you want to do a series or you want to play your game kind of thing? Like, do you like to play like ultra realistic? Do you like to play kind of like just kind of wild, crazy, and free, or somewhere in between? Like, how do you prefer?
I'm much closer to the realism side of things than anything else. So I don't even know if I could name a time that I've used an unrealistic capacity on a trailer or a faster combine or anything like that. I'll try and do those as realistic as possible. The even down to I've got I love bale stacking. I'll 9 times out of 10 will take the time to manually load bales rather than using an auto load baler or bale pickup or anything like that. So I think the closest I get to non-realism would be using object storage for bales, and that's more to do with the fact that every time I've used bales and you stack 4, 5, 6 trailer loads of bales in the same place, they'll explode and you get those funky bale physics, and it caused more pain than it was worth. So yeah,
No,
definitely more on
absolutely.
the realism side.
So, one thing that I tend to try and do for my content is I'll try and do like like a semi-realistic, like for like my role plays and let's play series that I do. And it's one of those where when I'm recording or when I know that it's going to be a part of the video that people are going to see, that's when I'm doing like the more realistic, not taking as many liberties. But behind the scenes, I'm sitting there and figuring out every single trick that I can, especially because up until here within the past couple weeks, I've been a console player myself. So, coming up with all those little tips and tricks and whatever you can to move the story along or move the gameplay along, is vital. Otherwise, you're spending hours upon hours upon hours doing one chore or one job. Do you find yourself doing that? Is just kind of for the camera, I'm going to be ultra realistic, and then behind the scenes, I'm going to kind of fiddle around, or are you just across the board? This is how I
No,
play.
I'm largely across the board. This is how I play. Sometimes I might leave courseplay or something harvesting a field and I'll walk away, or doing some work just to get it finished, and I won't stay at the computer. Particularly, back in the day when I was doing the big playthrough on a 16x map with huge fields, there would be periods I'd leave it just running for an hour and a half because everything was automated, and I'd just let it get through and do it. But I've very rarely ever taken shortcuts. I might take a shortcut with an easy dev or something, like if I've had a problem with a map or something hasn't quite worked out the way it should have, or I thought it would, then there might be a little bit of cheating going on in the background. But no, most of the time, 99% of the time, I'd say we do things as much as we can.
And would you say that's kind of because you grew up and have kind of centered your beginning years of your life around the farm, so you kind of want to kind of either relive or represent that kind of realism that you have gone through in your life? Or is it just more of a
I don't know
kind
if
of
it's.
that's who you are?
I think it's just who I am. I just enjoy playing it, and before I did the content creation, I'd sit there and play for 4 or 5 hours just doing a task and enjoy it. There's times I'll get frustrated and go, oh god, I wish this would be over and done with and be finished, and I'll just stop recording. But I'll normally finish doing whatever it is.
So, what would you say is the most memorable moment of your content creation career so far?
Ooh, going to Case last year, getting invited to head over to Racine and have the early access and play on FS25 and just the whole experience was just amazing. A sort of pinch yourself moment to think I'm actually here doing this.
That's pretty cool. That's
Mm,
definitely would be a big highlight. I could see that one.
mm,
Let's see. And I think nope, we got one more. So we established that you're building a map currently.
mhm.
Um, you are building. You said it was a place that was a bit south of you, if I remember correctly. So is it based off of a place off of real life, or you're trying to take like liberties with this map?
No, it's 100% real place. So it's a small town called Winchester in the South Island. So it's well, I'm in the North Island. It's in the South Island. It's I don't even know how I came across it. I think we might have had some friends who moved down there, and I was just looking, and it just appealed to me as a place because it's got a main road down. So the main road down the middle, it's got a train track down the middle, and then one side's got a river and more pasture, and the other side's got fields and more arable. So I kind of like I can have the best of both worlds and build a map around it. I'm kind of kicking myself for having the town in there because it's got lots of houses and lots of decoration that needs to be done to make the map work, but doesn't actually add anything to the gameplay.
Okay.
So,
And
yeah,
And for your map, I mean, I think this kind of happens with everyone because there's certain aspects of the game like animal dealers and sell points and all these different things. There's obviously some liberties that have to be taken in order to make the map functional for people to be able to play and do things with. Uh, are you able to or willing to share what are some of those liberties that you are going to have to take in order to be able to make it functional for the player rather than it
yep.
just being a true one-to-one representation of the local area?
Yeah, sure. I've it's mainly around the sell points and things like that. So what you're just saying actually made me think we were talking about before about maps that really appealed to me through different ages or different versions of the game. FS19 No Creek Farms, which was MRG converted a map from FS17 called No Creek Farms, and that one was I spent hours and hours and did a big long series on that. But the reason I bring that up is it's a map that has a central. It's a two times map. It has one farmyard centrally in the map. Right at the edge of the map, it has a location that acts as the dealer. It acts as the single sell point. It acts as the animal store. Everything's there. It doesn't have 7 or 8 different places to sell things, and that didn't bother me, and it didn't bother a lot of people. So I kind of looked at that and gone, if people want to play the map, they'll play it. If it doesn't have productions, it doesn't have productions. As long as there's somewhere they can put a production down. But you look at like Giants, their maps have a lot of the productions pre-placed, and that's just the way they build their maps, and they want people to enjoy it that way. But I'm sort of leaving it more for people to make that decision themselves. If you want a grain mill, here's some space you can put a grain mill, or if it was an oil mill or whatever. So I've definitely, there's a spot for a sawmill, but actually, if you look on the map, there's like a firewood place there, or it looks like like a sawmill. So I'm putting the sawmill there, but that's where it is. The animal dealer is going to be at a location where they have a agricultural show every year, and it actually has some cattle yards there that could be an animal dealer, but it'll have some extra bits and pieces and that. But where I can of doing that, there's buildings like where the shop's going to be is actually a company that manufacture farm equipment. So while it's not going to be that, it's actually, it's used as an agricultural equipment place. So it kind of seems appropriate that that could be the shop. Behind that, there's a warehouse for the distribution of a big jam manufacturer down in that area, make a lot of jams, and that's their warehouse. So that's going to be a sell point. There's an old grain mill that it was a water driven grain mill back, historic grain mill, and so that's going to be a sell point. And there's a shed where they store potatoes and export like a farmer's market. So that's going to be a sell point. So I've taken a little bit of liberty in how they work, but largely the places that are there are going to function in some way to add that functionality to the map to make it workable for players.
Wow. So it really sounds like you've done your research on that local area to be able to not only kind of stay kind of true to what is there, but putting things in its place where you do have to take quote unquote liberties, um, to where it's going to at least make some kind of rational sense as to
Mm,
how you're
yeah,
extending it out into the map itself. That's
yeah,
very highly impressive, because I could see where people are just gonna take liberties because that's just the functionality of the game. You kind of
mm,
have to take those liberties, but it sounds like you are really putting in the thought to be able to make it not just a liberty, but something that actually has grounding to it. Which, I mean,
yeah, yeah.
anybody who puts that kind of like forethought and extra effort into anything they do is going to be like a step above a lot of other people. So it makes me very excited for when that map does come out.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes to your detriment, because it might have been easier to have just said, "Oh, these buildings that are here, let's just put this building from Riverbend Springs in there, and that'll symbolize being where the flour mill was, and it can be a sell point." And it probably wouldn't have lost much from the game, but I think it's probably part of my architecture background and my design background is wanting it to have that aesthetic, have that feel, and recreate and represent something. Particularly because New Zealand's not a place that's had a map at all. So I want to do it justice and do a good job. I'm not here to tune out a dozen maps. That's not what I want to achieve. It's not what I want to do. But I just want to make a map or two and do it good. Do a good job of it.
Well, no, and like I said, I'm looking forward to it, because I mean, like you just described, and like I just said, it's one of those where you're putting in the extra thought, but it also sounds like, based on what you just said there, that you're going to be like trying to stick true to the local area rather than just saying, okay, well, this is something that can visually represent things, so I'm just going to plunk this down right here and just be done and move on. You know,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's going to take you a lot of extra time to do that, but based on what you just said, it sounds like you want to put in that effort to be able to, like, hey, I'm representing something here, and I want to be able to say I did 110%.
Yeah, I mean, I'll caveat that with I'm not gonna, there's probably 100 houses. I'm not gonna create 100 different houses, and that's somewhere where a house is a house. It's not a core function of farming simulators. So the houses are from other maps. They're not something I'm going to go spend a lot of time going recreating. But I'm going to put my time and effort into those places where players will visit more frequently. They'll go into a grain mill. They'll go into a sell point. They'll go to the shop. I spent a bit of time last night actually doing some of the modeling on the shop and just getting it to a point where I'm like, it's quite a big building. I'll make this part will be enterable. We'll be able to go in there, and that's the showroom, and there'll be a bit around the corner, which is going to be the workshop. But it might only be 20% of the total floor area or site area of this building is actually going to be usable. So making sure I can put the time and effort into the bits I need to put the time and effort in, and then some smoke and mirrors to make it look reasonable and accurate to what's there.
Well, like I said, and I hope I can speak for a lot of other people who are listening in here tonight, I am excited to see what you have to offer for your first. This is your first map, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see what you got to offer. I
Hmm.
can't wait. Can't wait.
Yeah, I just find time to finish it. That's all.
Uh,
there's a running joke as I said when I revealed it, and I said soonish. So that's all I'm saying about when it'll be there. It'll be there soonish.
I gotcha. Well, and as we mentioned earlier, having a full time job, having the family, and this just being kind of a side gig where you're just trying to fill the void and have some fun along the way. there's only so much time in a single day to be able to do anything,
Mm,
and as you
mm,
mentioned, you've got kids that you're taking off to sporting practice and doing stuff like that. you know and I think most people, especially because
yeah.
like we mentioned earlier, I think people understand and are willing to kind of be okay with, like, hey, this is going to be something that's going to take a while, because I'm
Mm,
not dedicating full-time hours to this. I've got a life and a business outside of this, so
mm,
it's one of those,
mm.
I think, that
It's Yeah, I was going to say it's definitely helped having this as something there to keep my passion for the game, because I know a lot of people have said that 25 was a tough pill to start with. I think we're starting to really see its potential coming through now, but buying it, being able to, like, "Oh, I don't feel like playing a game, I don't feel like recording an episode or something tonight, but I can go make the map and actually get enjoyment out of doing that. It's actually helped me stay passionate about it, because as I said, it's a hobby. It would have been easy enough to go, the game's, it's not doing it for me, I'll go and play something else, and then the channel would just kind of potentially drifted away, or gone on hiatus for a while until I found a reason to come back and play. But by doing this, it's definitely helped keep the passion, and learning GE and Giants Editor and all those kind of things. It's just, when you complete something, like I had a big breakthrough last week. I've been building custom fences for the map to make it look like New Zealand fence, and I tried this 6 months ago, and I could, not for the life of me, get the fence to follow the terrain. You build a fence for giants, and the wires will go up the slope of the ground.
Mhm.
I couldn't get that to work. I'd go, I had them going in all sorts of zigzags and directions, and I had a breakthrough on the weekend and finally got that to work. So, when you have that moment, it's really enjoyable, and it makes it all worthwhile.
Absolutely. All right. Well, like I said, that was the last question I had for this segment here. So we're going to set our sights onto the chat once more before we start wrapping things up. So, question I have here is from Cavalier Roy. Roy, thank you so much for your question. It says, do you find Giants Editor more addictive than playing the game itself?
It can be, yeah, exactly for the reason I just said. When you get that moment of success, and you take something from GE into the game and look at it and go, well, that looks awesome, and it's exactly what you were trying to achieve. Then yeah, you can find yourself just getting lost in map creation.
Again, Kevin Leroy, thank you so much for your question. He's got another question here. It says, what got you into modding for Farming Simulator?
Um, it was wanting to have something that wasn't available, which was the object storage. Just recognizing that there was, again, going back to what I said, is that, Farms and Briscoe had made this great map of the Oaks. He'd used all these custom sheds, and the farmyards looked amazing. I wanted to have the ability to store bales for that reason I was talking about before, with not having lots of bulk bales stored around and causing performance issues on a multiplayer server, or just getting those weird bale physics when they're stacked close. So I wanted to be able to sort of stay true to the map, and that's kind of how I got into the anywhere object storage, and then it just grew from there, really.
Awesome. Kevin Leroy, again, thank you so much for your questions. We got one from Ken Adlam, says, how did you meet Farm Sim Guy? Was it through FS?
Yeah, it's 100% through FS. So we both started our channels at relatively the same time, and excuse me, one of the ways I was trying to promote myself, you knew I'd created a forum thread in the Giants forums, and each time I did a video, I'd put a post and share the video, and that would bump the post back to the top of the forums. And he saw me doing this, so he started doing it as well. And we just started, watching each other's content and just chatting. And yeah, that's kind of how we met and got into where we are now. Yeah, it's been cool to have. And something actually, DJ Goham said very early at FSG was, find someone, partner in crime, basically call ourselves partners in crime. Find someone to enjoy the moment, enjoy the journey of being a content creator with, someone you can share the highs, share the lows, talk through the issues. So we do our multiplayer videos, try and do them once a week, and every Sunday night for me, Sunday morning for him, we'll spend an hour and a half, 2 hours playing the game, and that's more of a chance for us to connect and chat, and have conversations about what's going on in the world and personally and with the channels. And yeah, it's been great to have that person to share it with.
Excellent, excellent. Ken, thank you again for your question. We got, let's see. I think I got that one. All right, I think that is all the questions that I have here. Let me just do one more scan. Nope. That's it. That's all the questions. Thank you all so
Nice.
much for all your questions here. We're going to head into our third and final segment called That's a Silage Wrap. So we're going to start closing things out. So firstly, Argsy, I want to thank you so much for coming out here tonight and doing this interview. I had an absolute blast with you here tonight.
Yeah, no, thanks for the invite. It's been fun. Kind of didn't know what to expect getting into it, and no, it's surprised we've talked for 2.5 hours. Yeah, it's flown by.
It really has. It really, really has. So do you want to let us know any future plans or projects you got going on?
Yeah, I think you've heard about them all. No, just obviously the map is just going to be an ongoing thing, and I'll certainly be sharing some details about that. Obviously excited about the cultivator program and being a representative there for that, and seeing what I can do for the New Zealand farm sim community. That's going to be a bit of a blast to come up with some ideas and see how we can get some in-person activities going around that. So that's going to be good, and just keep things ticking over and just enjoy the road with the channel and the content creation, seeing where things go.
Excellent, excellent. Do you want to remind us where we can find you?
Yeah, so Argsy Gaming is my handle on just about everything, YouTube, Facebook. Those are the two I interact the most. I've got a Discord server as well. I think you've got a link for that, haven't you? Discord in the chat, on the video description. So yeah, Discord if you want to get in touch with me that way. Otherwise, X, Instagram. That's about it. All at Argsy Gaming.
Excellent, excellent. Again, thank you so much for coming out here tonight. This is where I turn my eyes to the chat and say, did you enjoy this? I hope you did. And if you want to see more of this style of content where I talk to creators within the farm sim community, let me know who you'd love to see. Let me know your favorite content creator, your favorite modder, mapper, whoever they are, farmer even. Any kind of connection to Farming Simulator, let me know who it is that you'd like me to reach out to, and I will do my absolute best to get them out of the channel and do exactly what we did here tonight. So the only requirements I have is they have to be above the age of 18. That's just one of the kind of rules I have, just to make sure that everything's above board. So if they're over the age of 18 and they are connected in some way, shape, or form, big or small, doesn't matter. I want to have them on the show, and I want to be able to get their story. That's one of the greatest things I love about this show, is being able to find and listen to all the amazing stories that we get to hear, just like we heard here tonight with Argsy Gaming. So again, everybody, thank you so very much for coming out here tonight and hanging out with us and following along and participating. And I really hope that everybody enjoyed it here tonight. If you did, please show me by liking, sharing, subscribing, following, commenting, doing all the things the algorithms enjoy doing. The shows you're engaged with this channel, enjoying the content. And that being said, I hope everybody has a fantastic day. Take care. Argsy, go ahead and hang on for just a few seconds until after the outro, and I'll catch you on the other side.
Nice one. All right.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Thanks.
This is Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Let's roll. Out here in the country, where the roads run wide, there's a world behind the pixels that we're bringing to the light. From maps to mods, to the rigs we drive, we're talking to the folks who keep this farm life alive. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. He's got questions rolling like a big John Deere. we can hear. From giants of the code to the artists painting skies, he's shining up their stories like a brand new combine. It's Farm Sim Talk with BDD. Come pull up a chair and ride along with me. Stories from the makers, the builders of the scene. Farm Sim Talk, where we live the farming dream. From tractors to textures, from silos to sounds, there's a whole crew of heroes making this world go round. So tune in and find out who's behind the screen. Farm Sim Talk's the place to see what farming really means. It's Farm Sim Talk.